across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, good morning and happy Saturday to you. I am so excited about this show. I don't know why, I just am. Mainly because Peter Barnes put on a suit. He's got the Trump memo right from the Oval Office that, you know, T-shirts and... Naffery won't do. Naffery is. They won't do in these parts anymore. Yeah. We've got Oval Office standards to uphold, so very nice to see that you have come suited and booted with. I love what it's like a grey-green.
Yes, it's like a very kind of mossy green, I think. But a very nice lady called Isabel, who messages me on X all the time, said that I was dressed smarter on another show and I should smarten up for you. So
I think everyone should smarten up for me. In general, wherever I go, I think people should make an effort.
I could see it.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's just not really the weather for a shirt, suit and tie. It's very warm, particularly on the tube.
Do you know what? I often think this, as a woman, you know, I've got two wardrobes, both of which look like they're in dire need of a sort. And I've only just moved out about a year ago, and that was like bin bags of clothes down the Chazza shops. But I've got one whole wardrobe which is just presenting dresses, like these sorts of things, one in every single colour. And that's kind of like my uniform. And it got me to thinking that for a lot of men out there who go into a world of bureaucracy and office work, they just wear school uniform their whole life.
Oh, yes. It's also fun when you go, like, for a wedding or something. For people who don't wear a suit for work, they think that it's, like, all smart and everything. We just feel like we're going to the office. Like, you know what I mean?
Like oh, I'm going to get myself a tie.
Exactly.
But what's the decision-making process as a man? It's like colour shirt, colour tie. That's it.
Yeah. So usually it's socks, or like a belt or something that you use to personalise.
Do you like a sort of ironic sock?
I do.
Do you? What have you got on?
What have I got on?
Let's have a look.
No, actually, to be fair, I've just got plain black ones
Can you not
on
get the leg up in those tight jeans?
Not in these tight jeans. Not in these jeans.
And leg moving.
No, also, I'm over the age of 30. I cannot get my leg up that high.
But nothing should stop you from staying
it's because I want to spend the rest of the day at A&E. I haven't got that many hours in the day.
Oh, dear.
Yeah.
But there we are.
Yes.
It does always sort of surprise me.
Yeah, it's the one bit of sexism that always annoys me when people are like, oh, you know, women can't wear trousers. Sometimes I'd like to wear...
Women can't wear trousers?
Do you know, like in school uniforms?
Are we still in like the Victorian era?
You know, we always get these schools, don't you, the way, you know, it all kicks off.
I'm not a big fan.
In summer, it's the other way round.
They did that in my school. They're like optional. You can, in sixth form, you can wear trousers if you want to. And I was one of those. I did adopt the trouser thing.
Yeah.
Because it felt, you know...
Rebellious.
Yes,
that doesn't surprise me.
Well, actually, I'm old-fashioned these days. I'd be like, no, got to be a skirt. Get out the tape measure on the knee.
We had a deputy headmistress who was like that.
Oh, we had But the thing is, the minute we'd leave the school gates, we'd all roll up sort of tops of our skirts and walk down the street like this. People in builders, I was like, my God.
Yeah.
We were 14. We did not know what we were doing.
No, somebody should have said.
Someone should have said something. Well, they probably did.
Yeah.
And we just ignored them anyway. Because
that's so true.
That's what teenagers do.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh. Anyway, we're going all over the place today. Let us do our housekeeping before we proceed, ladies and gentlemen. Here is the administration for the day. Here are the notes. If you'd like to call the show, the number is 03444 99 1000. It is your normal network rate. So it doesn't cost you anything. It's the same amount as calling...
Water? I don't know, actually.
Water?
I don't know the water company. I'm like,
calling the water company.
I don't really ring anybody. People ring me.
I know, no one does landlines anymore.
No, but apart from my parents.
Do you have a landline?
Oh, no. No. My parents do. I think they're the only people I know that has it.
No, I do, yeah.
Yeah. And if they don't answer it, that's when I do get concerned, actually. Ooh. If they don't answer the mobile phone, I just presume they've lost it.
Yeah, if I don't answer the mobile phone, I'm assuming they're looking at it, still trying to figure out which button to press.
Yeah.
It still happens. Sometimes my mum will answer and straight away puts it on mute with her face somehow, and it takes about an hour for her to realise.
Video call to the ear.
Yeah, all of that business. Yeah. Or sometimes the classic is when you phone a parent on a mobile phone and you get the Johnny, how does this thing work? Hello, sweetheart.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Your father was trying to help.
Yeah, you get the sort of run up.
Yeah.
Anyway, there we go. Right, sorry, I digress. 03444991000 is also the number if you'd like to send us a WhatsApp or leave us some sort of audio. What would we like? We'd like poems, limericks, jingles. We love jingles. We always love a jingle. We've got a few. We got the Prince is our tech op today. So let's see what the Prince can like put together in a mishmash of your creativity, a mosaic of musical magnificence. Also, you can just leave a voice note or send a message. But come on, kick back, have some fun. Let's enjoy our Saturday. 8722 is a number if you'd like to send a text message. If you're going to do that, you have to write the word talk before you write your text. Housekeeping done.
Yes.
Now, first up, let us talk about... So I covered this story yesterday, and I had a viewpoint yesterday which I think has evolved come today. This is the story that Axel Rudakubana, who really doesn't deserve or need an introduction, tragically, is being moved to Broadmoor, which is a psychiatric facility as opposed to being in standard prison. And yesterday the news was that, standard prisoner costs £90,000 a year to house. A patient in Broadmoor about £250,000. And so there's this brilliant writer who's a psychiatric nurse, psychiatrist.
Right.
Just a psychiatrist.
Just a psychiatrist.
That's what I'm looking for. Works at Broadmoor. And has written this brilliant book called The Devil You Know. It's a case-by-case study of, how do people end up in this situation, the sort of people she treated, the crimes they commit. It's amazing, this book. It is amazing. I've actually given it away to someone. I keep buying people copies and saying, read this. And under no circumstances, reading her reports from inside Broadmoor, do I think that sounds like a walk in the park.
Yeah.
It's more like, padded rooms and faeces on the wall.
I have to admit, I agree with you on this. I've heard a lot of the commentary and people thinking it's some kind of holiday resort.
Yeah, right.
It's really not.
Here we go. But exclusive in The Sun, which of course is our sister paper, is suggesting actually that he's gamed the system to end up at Broadmoor, because now he will be living in a university hall-style room, be free to spend his days reading, watching films and TV, writing to friends and relatives, state-of-the-art gym, on-site cafe and shop, hairdresser, dentist. He'll be monitored around the clock, escorted around the 60-acre site by guards. They will implement security measures to keep him safe from dangerous patients, such as, the Stockwell Strangler, cannibals. He'll not have to work like prison inmates do, but be expected to undergo intensive therapy and rehab with psychologists and mental health professionals. So I very much understand the anger from the families of those wee girls. I do. And what the Telegraph has been revealing is actually Rudakubana has quite a long history of trying to control and manipulate medical professionals. That the Southport inquiry into that horrific incident found numerous examples of manipulative...
That is not a fun read. I've read it.
Have you read it?
Yeah, it is not a fun read.
Talk to me about this, then. Talk to me about what we're dealing with here, because the decision for him to be moved from prison to prison hospital to Broadmoor would have been taken, no doubt, by psychiatrists. And will be based upon need. And I have no doubt, and look, I'm not making excuses, I know there's way too often the horrible excuse used, it's because he had a mental illness. By and large, a lot of people who decide to go out and, target someone with a terror attack or drive 300 miles to biff someone over the head with a claw hammer or something like that, probably a sandwich short of a picnic, if I'm honest. Yeah. It doesn't justify or excuse or condone their vile, evil crimes, and it doesn't mean I don't think sentences should be any shorter. But it does expose that the average human being doesn't go online, download an Al-Qaeda manual and wants to go and commit atrocities. But I don't know. So let's look at some of this. So Adrian Fulford, chairman of the inquiry, said it was clear Rudakubana had attempted to dictate treatment. He wanted to share symptoms in order to secure particular medication. He was demanding, argumentative. He said one of the defining hallmarks of his personality, he was deeply manipulative and routinely untruthful. A teacher said he was the most complex child I have ever taught. I mean, he's evil. He is actually evil. But I don't know how to respond to this story, because I think that when you have someone who is evil, that disturbed, that they are a monster, they do need to be shoved in a padded cell, frankly, with psychiatrists.
Because the reality is a normal prison couldn't handle him.
Right.
He would be a threat and a danger in a normal prison. Broadmoor is a specialised facility. It's called a hospital. It is not a hospital. You know, the reality of this guy getting better, not possible. This guy's just basically become a lab rat. That's what he's going to be studied for the rest of his life, to work out how he became how he is. That's the I think the bit I'm taking from it is he's not getting a cushy life. He's going to have his life, basically, he's under a microscope. He's going to have people in lab coats following him around and watching everything that he does to learn how somebody becomes like that.
We had Vanessa Frake on yesterday, who is a former prison governor and justice advisor to reform, and she said to me, you know, Broadmoor isn't some sort of, you know, the Priory. It isn't. And so this isn't going to be a case of singing Kumbaya and playing on Nintendo. And ironically, though, given that she is the advisor to reform and therefore Nigel Farage, it's interesting to note that he, however, has written in The Sun saying the Southport killer is a monster who played the system and not a patient, and sees this as essentially him getting a softer sentence. So direct contrast to what his prisons and justice advisor said to me. So interesting.
I think this is the one where public rage may have to come second. The public see a monster and want a monster punished. I've listened to some of the commentary today from Mark earlier, where the people are on about the death penalty. I will stand between anybody and the death penalty. I think it is horrific.
No, I don't agree with the death penalty.
I don't agree with it at all. We sit in this room and we talk about an establishment and people manipulating systems. Why do you want to give those people the right and ability to kill you?
It
doesn't make any sense to me. For me, the mental gymnastics to get there.
Right.
I mean, I'm not that flexible.
Nobody is allowed to take a life. It's in the Ten Commandments. Done.
Yeah, it's just that. And again, it's horrific for the parents that any of this has to be continually brought up. But this guy is a monster, but we have to study monsters to learn how to catch monsters.
Yes.
That's how I'm looking at it. We use this guy as a tool to make sure it doesn't happen again. I find it very concerning in the report, and it's in this article here, that one of the first kind of assessments that he did with Prevent was over the telephone. This is the bit that really irritates me, is the kind of the bureaucracy and how this all kind of worked was so lackadaisical, so lazy, so kind of, well, we've ticked the box, that'll do. That's how we got away with it.
We are seeing again and again and again in the news every day now examples of how this mad obsession with seeing everything through the prism of racism is costing lives. The fact that this creature, this thing, wasn't identified and prevented was because people were so worried because he was black. The fact that Henry Novak is dead is because the police were so worried because his assailant was a Sikh.
Yes.
The fact that there was mass bombing at Manchester Arena was because the security guards were so worried because the people that they suspected were Muslims with big old beards. I mean, actually, after the break, we're going to be talking about the fact that Iran is smuggling terrorists into the country via small boats. The fact that all these do-gooder NGO charities, politicians are like, oh no, poor migrants, they're vulnerable, we've got to give them hotels and houses. Nothing is good enough for these poor, beatified, little harmed souls. And it's like, no, they are tenacious, young, industrious men who have cavorted with career criminals, international cartels, terrorist organisations, people traffickers, managed to get across an entire continent with money in their back pocket, don't give a flying about their relatives back at home, don't have people believe that for 1 second. And again, the cult of anti-racism, lanyardism, is lethal. Lanyards kill. I've said this before, but lanyards kill. That is what I think our focus should be. Not this whole and now he's in Broadmoor, OK? I want to... look, I don't necessarily have much faith in the system, but I do have faith that that will have been a decision taken for very specific reasons, not because, oh, poor wee thing, let's help him out here. I don't think anyone is that suicidally empathetic.
No.
But it doesn't erase the truth that this blimmin' craziness.
Yeah.
There's a story in the paper today about the youngest ever professor at Oxford University who claimed he grew up sort of unable to read and write until the age of 18. Then all of a sudden he's like run 600 marathons in 600 miles in 6 days. He's worked for 300 charities. He's written all these books and theses. And people are like, you plagiarised that, son. And he's like, this is racism.
Oh, the minute that, yes, the automatic knee-jerk to racism tells you that they know what they're doing.
Exactly.
They know what they're doing. The one thing I will say, and I think it links to the migrant story as well, is the medicalisation of crime. The way we treat it as a public health problem and not as a punishment problem.
Right.
They believe that if you take people from these terrible countries, bring them here, they will magically become better people.
They have the Men in Black pen as soon as they land at Dover.
As soon as you get on
not
a
misogynist anymore.
Exactly.
Not a terrorist anymore.
Exactly. As though you could somehow you get to Calais and you suddenly forget that you don't like gays. I mean, it's just laughable. It's laughable. But again, it is lethal, and we're seeing it on the streets. It's why. The Rudakubana situation is this kind of, well, everybody's very angry about the mental health card. It definitely is in this situation. But again, it's that kind of, well, it's not his fault.
But we've had
that narrative is starting to grow, and I don't like that.
We've had this fetishisation of mental illness as well.
Yes.
You know, we've got all these young kids who can't be bothered going to work, sitting under their slankets, doing whatever kids do on their phones these days, probably watching hardcore pornography and, you know, Love Island, I don't know.
Because it's not their fault.
And it's, well, I can't go to work because I've got some sort of acronym.
Yes.
You know, no, you don't have ADHD or OCD or PTSD. You've got a severe case of being LIAR. You know, and we fetishize. There are people out there with genuine health problems, with physical disabilities. Let me just make very clear: a skin colour's not a disability. Being a bit depressed is not a disability. You know, your sexuality is not a disability. Having a fetish that you want to put on a little girl's tutu and go into women's changing rooms is definitely not a disability. Can we get real? Because the stupid thing is, we're all being made to play a part in this stupid psychodrama where we know full well when Terence turns around and goes, I'm called Teresa now, and has a big old beard and shoves some, you know, balloons down the front of his cardigan and wants to go down the changing rooms, that Terence is just a creep.
Yes.
And yet we play along.
Because it's the fear. It's the fear that we will end up in more trouble than the person doing the bad thing. That's the reality.
It's a sick
look
cult.
at the head teacher who tried her best to bring Axel Rudakubana to the authorities to say this guy is a problem. She was a highly respected professional. She was terrified of being vilified in the press and her profession, losing a career, her mortgage, kids, all the rest of it. That cannot happen because 3 little girls are dead because of it.
Yeah.
In a very horrific...
The body count's stacking up. That is what... And I'm being very serious about this. We are seeing every day now how this is having a real-world implication.
And we all see it. We all know it.
And do you know what else? Do you know what else? We're not allowed to say what it is, which is anti-white racism for the most part. No. We even aren't allowed to use the word racism, are we? We've got to use two-tier.
Yes.
As if it's so nice and gentle. Oh, well, it's just a little bit of old two-tierism there. Makes it sound very polite. It makes it sound like, you know, you're in the first division, but don't worry, one day you might be in the Premier League. No, it is discrimination, brainwashing, cultification, mental illness on a blimmin' stick that is having a corrosive, cancerous, rotting effect across the whole of society.
Yeah. It's the be kind or else. That's the bit that we always miss. Or else. We will make it hurt. And unfortunately, these people have a lot of power. They have a lot of power in our society. But we all know that this isn't right. But we're, as a society, as a people, we're paralysed by those in charge.
And do you know what I call that? Left-wing tyranny.
Yeah.
All right, my lovely, so we've got to enjoy
Happy
our day
Saturday.
today. We said, like, come on, woohoo.
So, in a way, that was quite
Sun's
cathartic.
Sun's out, fun's out. But there you go. Your thoughts, please, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm sure a lot of you have been wound up nice and properly by that one. So let it all out, sharing some communal catharsis. This is your mental health check-in. Come to your free therapy. Barnesy and I got your back. 03444 9911000. You can send us a WhatsApp, leave us a voice note on WhatsApp on that number, 8722. If you'd like to send a text message, write the word talk before you text. If you just want to vent on the phone, good old-fashioned landline.
It's very cathartic, I have to admit.
I know. Just call us the Samaritans, baby. You can also phone 03444 499 1000. All right, back in a moment.
Fifth Prime Minister in 4 years. Blimey. And, well, look, we want him to succeed. But will this one be any different? Andy Burnham, the new head honcho. 1 minute he was Mayor of Greater Manchester. What, a month and a bit ago, he wasn't even an MP. The next, he's holding keys to number 10.
You know what? I'm trying so hard not to be cynical about it all, but I'm trying to keep, not hope. I'm sick of hearing about hope already. He's only been in government for 5 minutes, but I want them to succeed because I want Britain to succeed.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Honestly, look at this.
Oh, my Lord.
I was trying to get my lipstick out my handbag, and it's all my
There you
It's
go.
like Revenge of the Lanyards.
See, they always get you in the end.
I hate I refuse to wear lanyards. I hate them, out of principle. I actually think I might start my own range of merch saying lanyards kill.
It's a
jolly,
good phrase.
isn't it?
It's a good phrase. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have to admit, if I see pronouns, I'm crossing the road.
I've noticed since I've been talking about lanyardism and lanyards, I've noticed a few other people in the right-wing ecosystem.
I've noticed lanyardism.
I've now started saying lanyardism, and I'm like, all right, want to give it back? Credit, trademark.
Burn and Bounce, that was you?
Burn and Bounce, well, that was, everyone's going to come up with that. I mean, you can't go like, oh, Burn and Bounce, I've said it, and no one else is going to dream
my
of
favourite
that.
one for him at the moment is Andy Burden.
Andy Burden.
I thought that was very clever. No. I saw that. I think it was Robert Jenrick, actually.
Robert Generic.
Generic, again.
Yeah.
I was saying this to Kelvin McKenzie one time. I was like, when you go into politics, be careful what your surname is. If you have a surname that is a gift to newspaper editors, think of a different career. Like, literally any other job.
I was just there doing my own surname then. I was like, no, I'm safe.
No, you're fine.
Phillips is all right. You can get away with a lot. By the way, are you... I'm going to put out a bit of a call-out, as we like to call it, in the biz. Are you someone who is holidaying or perhaps moved to France or Spain and have been caught up in these mass evacuations? 200,000 people have now been evacuated across southern Europe. Spain has declared a national emergency due to the wildfires. And the part of France, the Gironde and La Porge, that area is heavenly. I love it. And it's beautiful beaches with big sort of Atlantic rollers coming in, surrounded by acres of pine forests. chef's kiss oysters. I think David Niven had like an island down there or something.
That sounds very David.
And it's got this massive, beautiful, I think it's the biggest sand dune in all of Europe, called Arcachon.
That's niche. But it's brilliant.
Got the facts.
Yes.
Anyway, you can't go there because it's all on fire.
Yeah.
Which is dreadfully sad, actually. It is horrible. And so if you are someone who has been caught up in the chaos, it'd be really interesting to hear from you. We'll stick the numbers on the screen. But no. But I mean, we're getting more and more, well, I say getting more and more used to this.
Yeah.
It is becoming, you know, something that happens on a regular basis.
Yeah. Do we know why this one started? Is there like
I was about to get onto that
Yeah.
because I remember about 4 years ago where there were these mass wildfires in Greece and they
yeah.
were being set deliberately.
Yes, I remember
A number
this.
of them were deliberately set.
Yeah, because everyone was saying it was climate change, and then it turned out it was like 4 kids or something like that, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
Well, these ones are believed to be accidental.
Yeah.
Um,
They've spread from Spain, haven't they? Because the Spanish government declared them unmanageable, which I thought was not a good thing you should be hearing when it comes to firing your own government.
But also, that Spain, I mean, look, sometimes we go, our infrastructures are rubbish. Spain had the mass blackouts because their solar panels didn't work. They either over-surged and took out a grid or had a Chinese kill switch.
Yeah.
I've heard both.
Yes.
And I've heard very credible people
And then I heard Ed
suggest
Miliband
both.
say that we should copy the model.
Then we found out that, you know, do you remember when there was the mass flooding in Valencia?
Yes.
Because the EU went, oh, do you know what? Because of otters and stuff, we got to get rid of all the dams. And then the whole blimmin' place floods. And they're like, nope, nothing to see here. No, nothing to do with us. I'm like, you do realise if you get rid of all of the things put in place to prevent water coursing down a mountainside and flooding the valleys, well, you might flood the place.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
sometimes when you look at this stuff, it's because of mad policy. And I've often wondered...
Often done by people who don't live there.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the big one. Like, this will have been made a decision made in Brussels by a person who lives in a 6 foot, 6x6 cardboard box, having no idea.
lanyardist.
Yes, who has no idea, couldn't point to the place on a map before they started lecturing everybody about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's the Lanyard Brigade. And the Lanyard Brigade, by and large, are behind this next story as well. Yesterday, do you know what? Sometimes I wish I could press a magic time portal button and go back into yesterday's show because I literally, let's do the rewind noise.
I'm more of a
literally
wavy.
said...
I like the waves. You know. Do you like on an old TV where you go, that one?
Yeah, I quite like that. It's like Scooby-Doo, like...
Yeah.
Okay.
There we go.
So,
Yes.
yesterday, the words came out of my mouth. And, of course, the IRGC have been using the illegal immigration routes to get all of their, you know, activists and terrorists into the UK. And I've been writing articles on this for 2 years. 2 years. And it's not like it's plucked out of nowhere. Number one is blimmin' obvious. You want to get a terrorist into the UK, you're not going to stick them on EasyJet, are you? You know, with a passport.
Well, to be honest, you probably could.
I'd probably get away with that as well. But we are now reading here that Iran has been caught sending suspected covert operatives across the English Channel into the UK. Individuals with links to Tehran's intelligence agencies are understood to have been intercepted by UK authorities while attempting to enter Britain on small boats. I remember when Robin Simcox, who is supposedly the czar on extreme... Well, he is, not supposedly, he is the counter-extremism or counter-terrorism czar, very clever man. He used to work at the Henry Jackson Society, said a long time ago, well, you know, terrorist organisations profit from these illegal routes. They don't have to sell opium anymore. No. Guess what? Afghan don't need poppy fields. Taliban have got, you know, a sort of parallel passport system. Yeah, they've got people trafficking
They've
now.
also got your wallet. In terms of they've got the nation's wallet.
Yes.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
So terrorist agencies are being funded by this. They're without doubt using this. Or even Wagner mercenaries from Russia, who are down in Africa, creating coups. And actually, you know, they're mercenaries. They make money out of running these routes. This should have been enough. The security threat alone should have been enough to say on day one of a blimmin' dinghy crossing that 12 mile of water, this is not going to happen because we don't know who you are. You can't just come into a country illegally, throw your passport in the sea and claim you're Mohammed from Syria, from some special Druze tribe or something that needs our sort of international protection. No, because the risk to our population and our national security is too high. A serious country knows that its first obligation is the defence of the realm, whether that be through frontier security, border security, legal security, the lot of it.
Yeah.
And this is, not only is this obvious, I'm going to paint a very dark picture for you. All right? I know, happy Saturday. Sit down for this one. So I was speaking to a friend of mine who's connected to some very, very senior foreign intelligence agencies who have apparently said to the UK government for a while now, you do realise you've got over 500 jihadi trainers who have come into your country. And similarly, I was having a conversation with, again, people connected to intelligence and security a couple of weeks ago at old CPAC, when we didn't get on the boat.
We didn't get on the boat.
We didn't get on that boat.
Ironically, everybody else did. But they call it a dinghy, don't they?
And I was told then that we are increasingly having these summer camps, Islamic summer camps up and down the country, where you get to go and learn how to do parkour, you know, jumping in and out of buildings and, you know, and paintball. And he's like, they're not summer camps. They are teaching young men of a particular faith to learn how to become terrorists. And this is happening up and down Britain. And without doubt, there is already a standing army of Islamists in the UK, and they wait. Oh, they infiltrate, and they wait. There is a brilliant expert in terrorism in the Pentagon in America, called Sarah Adams, who has been warning the West for ages that she knows the Taliban better than anyone. That's been her, you know, bête noire for her entire career. And she said, first of all, bin Laden's son didn't die. He's back, he's running the show. The Taliban's got more money than ever before. There's talk of Iran actually filling the Taliban's coffers. Never before did those two shake hands and cooperate. Different kind of Islam or something, but no, you know, enemy's enemy is your friend. But she has warned that the plan is not a sort of big spectacle like a 9/11, but coordinated October the 7th style attacks in every town and every city in the West. We're talking, when we saw that footage after the Southport riots, of young men coming out of mosques with weapons, when we're hearing they've got a security conference on, haven't they? The Muslim communities today, oh, well, we're under threat, we better train up and get ourselves armed. I'm not saying that that's what they're necessarily saying, but, you know, some of them are. I'm telling you right now, we have probably got a standing army of tens of thousands of Islamists lying in wait in every town, in every city. And when the call comes to take up arms, throw petrol bombs in public buildings, to block off roads, to shoot bullets through car windows, to run around town centres with machetes, slice people's throats, and just create as much carnage and gore as possible, we're not going to be ready. And this is what's going on, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not exaggerating. This isn't fantasy. This isn't hyperbole. This is pragmatism. And it is utterly breathtaking that successive governments are failing to grab the nettle and just say, I don't care about the ECHR. I don't care about courts in Strasbourg. I don't care about NGOs. I don't care about anybody who wants to hold a blimmin' socialist workers placard and say refugees welcome. I don't care about the legacy of Angela blimmin' Merkel. What I care about is keeping this country safe, and this stops, and it stops now. And the fact that successive governments have not done this one day, there's going to be blood on their hands.
Yep.
Right, on that note, we're going to go to break. See you in a mo.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, hello. Now, just before the break, I was, you know, well, just speaking some truths, because I do that. That is why, you know, the audience tunes in, because they know they're not going to get BBC-style waffle from us. They're just going to get cold, hard facts, as uncomfortable as they may be. And I've said, again, for the past month, with the coronation of Andy Pandy, it is absolutely disgusting to me that that man has not even said the word immigration. And so far, we've had 500, since he's become Prime Minister, 500 potential terrorists, rapists, ne'er-do-wells, convicted criminals, fraudsters, at the very least, people who've just come over to exploit and game our system, come in the country. In fact, a mega dinghy came across the channel the other day with 165 migrants. You know that these mega dinghies are being especially commissioned in China.
Yes,
They're being built for purpose now.
Yeah. Again, we've known about this for donkey's years, since this began. Whether it be the usage of these migrant routes by bad actors, whether they be state ones or non-state actors, and we know that this is being done and helped to destabilise the UK in a fundamental way, because whilst you're perfectly right, it's people coming across on the boats, you also have the problem of there are people in our institutions that aren't necessarily on our side, particularly in civil society. They have infiltrated the charity sector like I don't know what, in a professional way.
Islamist organisations.
Yes, and they are there to push one agenda, and that is to destabilise us in a very profound way, because once Britain goes, the West collapses around it.
But this is the other madness of the cohort of, you know, lefty-lovey so-called human rights lawyers who seem to dictate government, particularly in the Labour Party, and the adoration of things like the ECHR. Oh, it sounds nice, doesn't it? The Convention on Human Rights. And everything being done at EU level, which Burnham is as well, on steroids. The difficulty is you can't do this stuff at continental level, but we're being forced to. We're being told we can't send boats back to France because we've got no returns agreement with the EU because of Brexit. How about we just send them back and then say, what are you going to do? Huh? What are you going to do? And I tell you for why we can't work with anyone from Europe on this until we get changes of government. But a good example of this is these mega dinghies that are being purpose-built in China, and then they cross all the borders, don't they? You know, they're shipped across, open borders, good old Schengen Acquis, we love to hear it. Then they usually land up in big warehouses in Germany. Oh, why Germany, you may ask? Because my understanding is it's part of the German constitution, ever since they were a fascist state, that they're not allowed to do surveillance, proper surveillance. And so that's why, and, you know, I'm afraid these big international terrorist and people trafficking organisations are quite sophisticated and clever. They know these loopholes, so they know full well, stick a load of these massive you know, vessels in some warehouses on an industrial estate in Germany, and the police cannot sit there monitoring it and waiting for those things to come out or see where they're being shipped, so they get away with it. So how are we then expected to say, well, we're going to problem solve and share this burden with the rest of the continent when we can't turn around to Germany and say, get some eyes on that blimmin' warehouse?
Yeah, 100%.
You can't. You've just got to stand for yourself as a nation and look after your own people.
You work together where you can, but you should also work alone.
Yes.
That's the thing. You work together as a team when you can, and then at the same time, you're still a capable agent of, you know, you still got agency. Do something yourself. We don't defend our borders because we don't believe in them. Well, the leaders don't.
And how laughable, right, that we were told they were going to smash the gangs and that, oh, well, we can't do anything about turning the boats around because maritime rules, ECHR, human rights, whatever it may be. I was like, the Attorney General and the Prime Minister were both the very top of the tree when it comes to human rights lawyers, coming from barristers' chambers with offices in Brussels, in Geneva, in New York and in London, the four capitals, basically, where all this legislation, these treaties are churned out and seem to bind people's wrists. If two people could have actually done something about repealing that legislation, about lobbying the ECHR, about actually disapplying its application in domestic statutes, if there were two people with the CVs to be able to do that, they have just been in government. And did they try? Did they hell?
Yeah, it's lack of political will. They didn't want to. It's not that they couldn't, they just fundamentally didn't want to because they don't believe that realistically, what they did was the wrong thing. That's why this thing is always going to continue. The migrant crisis will continue purely because the people who have helped, make it such a national issue will never accept the blood that is on their hands. That's the thing. They don't want to look at their own reflection in the mirror. They don't want to see the mess they made. They don't turn around and actually look at the country and say, we did this.
But also, their throne of bones as the kings of lanyardism is built upon exploiting this brainwashing, left-wing, culturally Marxist rot. The woke mind virus that they have used tyrannically to suppress everybody else while they make millions of pounds, while they get to the top of the tree by tugging their forelocks, doing the critical race theory course, silencing all opposition, condemning people into ostracisation for not saying the right thing, doing the right thing. They are the ones who've profited and become the privileged elite tier in this country directly through this stuff. And if they were to give it up, they'd be no better than your average dog walker. And that is the truth of it. That's why they're tied to it. That's why they love it, because it puts noughts at the back of the first number of their bank account, and they love it. They live in their ivory towers, condemning the rest of us as gammon, as racist, as xenophobes, as ignoramus, when they are essentially brainwashing tyrants who are using this sick doctrine basically to get ahead. And they don't care about the consequences. They will sit on their throne of bones and watch the UK crumble. They will pretend they don't see it, and anyone who tries to call it out have to be silenced and censored because they've got everything to lose when this stuff ends.
I think that's the key point, is that they have so much skin in the game that they can't afford for it to be not like this anymore. That's why they turn on us. That's why they really, really want to silence anybody from actually having an opinion that isn't a regulated one.
I saw it when I was over in the European Parliament in Brussels. Like, when I was an MEP for however long it was, can't remember now.
15 minutes.
15 minutes. It's ridiculous. You've got a chauffeur-driven car every day.
Yeah.
You get more money thrown at you than you know what to do with, without any need for receipts, with a ridiculously low taxation rate. You have a red carpet when you go into the Parliament. They literally go like, bonjour, madame députée, and you walk along the red carpet for your special exit. You've got a special bar that sells champagne just for the MEPs. It is like being treated like Madonna. And that is why all the blimmin' Lib Dems were wailing, caterwauling, acting like, completely unhinged banshees, because they knew they were going to have to go back and work at the local library, not be on six-figure untaxed salaries being driven around by a man called Hugo in a special hat.
And ones that weren't inspected either. Nobody bothered to look at their accounts. Now, they have to start playing by rules, and they don't like that.
Well, we got a call.
Oh, excellent.
All right. Apparently, Ian wants to debate me.
Oh, here we go.
All right.
Ding, ding.
Hey, Ian, how you doing?
Good morning, Alex.
Good morning.
I just wanted to point out something on your previous diatribe about Islamism.
Right.
Now, in the 80s, Reagan, Thatcher, Carter created it by destabilising Afghanistan when the Soviets tried to stabilise it. With the aid of Pakistan and the ISI, it was the CIA who created the Taliban and Bin Laden. They funded him, they trained him, they armed him, and he was even Man of the Year on the front of Time magazine. They destroyed Iraq, Syria and Libya, all secular Arab states that had these people in prison before it was bombed back to the Stone Age. And now these people no, let me finish, Alex. You talk for a long time, right?
I haven't said anything, Ian. I literally didn't make a noise. No words came out of my mouth.
Sorry, on behalf of Israel, and we're armed the jihadi state of Saudi Arabia, because that's where jihadism comes from, Saudi Arabia. Now, back in the 80s, when I put this out, I was called a communist, a Marxist, a traitor, but I was right. And even my friends who were originally from Poland, who were apparently anti-communist, turned around and said, Ian, you're 100% right. 100% right.
I mean, listen.
And now the whole world is destabilised because we destabilised the Middle East on behalf of Israel,
Right.
and the jihadis hate us
Okay,
And that's the reason for it.
So, Ian, you make some extremely important points there. First of all, I totally agree that when it came to the Iran-Iraq war, that we were backing one particular side. We've been known in the past to actually arm the mujahideen and actually join forces with entities that turn out to be evil because we think that they're going to help beat another evil entity. And so our intervention sometimes, when it comes to what's been going on in domestic policies and, you know, the rise of certain sects and tribes and cults in other countries, has paid off in a very bad way. So in that regard, you are absolutely right. In terms of, we didn't invent jihadism. Wahhabism is the particular strict sect of Islam that came out of the Arabian desert, out of Saudi Arabia, which essentially has been flushed out of Saudi Arabia right now by MBS. So we didn't invent it, and there's a big debate about how that is being propagated and proliferated now. The problem we have now, Ian, is we can look back and go, well, we shouldn't have equipped these people. We shouldn't have backed that side over that side. We shouldn't have supported, you know, given weapons here to beat Assad because they ended up in the hands of ISIS. It's the same that, you know, we got rid of Gaddafi, and it turns out Gaddafi was a very useful plug in the top of the bottle of Libya, where most of the migratory flows now come from, because you've got warlords running that country instead. So a lot of our intervention has totally backfired, and I fully agree with that. What we've got now, though, is a lack of domestic intervention. We've actually got a hands-off policy. We've actually got a situation where, and we're going to be speaking to the brilliant veteran journalist Sue Reed later, we had this farcical story where there was apparently a far-right terror plot against some jamboree, Islamic jamboree happening in Suffolk. When you look at who the organisation were, who are having this, you know, good old knees up and get together, they are prescribed in most Muslim countries as a threat, as a terrorist organisation. So what we now have is, having gone into other countries and, you know, tried to, you know, play one side against the other and ended up putting weapons into the hands of wrong-uns, we now have a situation where we've got wrong-uns in this country who are being put up in HMOs and hotels and not being stopped from getting together and, I don't know, setting up jihadi training camps. So, you know, the whole thing, quite frankly, is a screaming dumpster fire. So, Ian, thank you. Your contribution, I think, indeed, was very excellent. Not much debate needed on that one. Although I don't like it when we start going down the route of all you know, fingers point back to Israel. I draw the line there, because Israel is a country surrounded by evil enemies who wants to see it obliterated and strives every day just to exist.
Yeah. I always point out the fact that Israel points the guns out from its people and not at its own people. And when you're now having to... we're now having to explain to people that those people are the good guys, not the bad guys, this is where we're going wrong.
Yeah, because we've not intervened in domestic terrorism and all the propagation of this filth, this ideology that, as you rightfully said, is now being spread in, you know, everywhere. It's infected the academy. It's in our universities. So therefore it's indoctrinating the youth, and therefore they go into public life, politics, law, legal, for all this stuff, and that is how it perpetuates and continues and grows. It is literally out of the Khmer Rouge playbook. You go after the children. Once you capture a nation's children, you have that country for generations. Yeah. And there is very little you can do about it. Also, Islamism is not one single idea. There's lots of competing strands within it. So to argue that it's just one thing is just nonsense. And it's not just Wahhabi. You've got Shia Islamism, you've got Sunni Islamism. 6 or 7 ones. Some actually competed elections. Others blow things up. There you go. That was the word from Barnes. Yeah. We're going to be taking another break, and after that, let's get round to talking about Burnham and number 10 of the North. Can we please stop doing the accents? I can't do an accent like that. Can you just say it, because you've got the accent? Number 10 of the North. No, I say it normally. I don't have a northern. I have a northern accent. Don't say you don't have a northern accent. That's just. I don't have a Wigan accent. You don't have a Wigan. You know, they all sound like that. Number 10 at North. Yeah. There we go. Yeah. That's what I wanted. Yeah. All right. There you go. We're discussing that after the break.
Prime Minister in 4 years. Blimey. And, well, look, we want him to succeed. But will this one be any different? Andy Burnham, the new head honcho. 1 minute he was Mayor of Greater Manchester. What, a month and a bit ago, he wasn't even an MP. The next, he's holding keys to number 10.
You know what? I'm trying so hard not to be cynical about it all, but I'm trying to keep, not hope. I'm sick of hearing about hope already. He's only been in government for 5 minutes, but I want them to succeed because I want Britain to succeed.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, welcome. I'm so easily pleased.
You really
I just
are.
got really excited. I was sitting here and I was sort of reading a few text messages. Someone had sent me a message about a story they want me to cover, and I was just like, hold on. Boop. Sorry, sleeves
Back in the room.
a little bit.
Back in the room.
Yeah, and I looked over there, and I'm like a bit of a magpie. I like the colour pink because I'm just, Barbie.
Yeah.
And I just suddenly went, ooh, I found a pink highlighter.
Yeah.
And I was very happy. I'm going to fiddle with this now.
There's a great clip on the internet of Gemma Collins, and she's walking into this room, and she goes, "Is that a trifle?" Literally, just instantly distracted, just distracted by this one thing. It's so because that's actually just what happened. We're getting the countdown 5. You go, "Oh, a highlighter,
Pink,
a pink highlighter,
pink highlighter." I was like, "Hello."
So funny.
That is going in my handbag.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to use it to highlight things, and I'm going to love it. So let's do this. Number 10 North.
Number 10 at North.
Up
There you go.
North is officially open for business. And so far, shall we add up how much it costs us? This is why I need this highlighter. So security at the building has had to be massively increased. Of course it has. You've got to have the private jet taking the Prime Minister there. Apparently that's how he got there the other day. I mean, how much does it cost? I've got the highlighter out to highlight how much it costs. And it doesn't actually say in this article.
I don't think they've actually released the figure yet. There's
Well, that's no fun.
They're probably still counting.
But it is...
So but the one thing, the figure that is in this is relocation packages for people who live in London to go up £20,000.
Well, for God's sakes. But this is the thing. I remember when the BBC thought they were being all smart by moving everything to Salford. And a lot of people who worked at the BBC was like, yeah, but my kids are at school in London. My partner's got a job in London. I own a house in London, so I live in London. I can't just suddenly uproot my life and go to a random Salford just because you think it's woke to go stick a blimmin' building there.
Yeah, you might get, like, junior staff being able to go. But again, if you've got a life here and a family here and commitments and responsibilities, you're not upping your life.
The BBC struggled for ages getting guests to go on that sofa because people are, I'm in London. The sports stars, the Hollywood actress, the politician in London. Can you make it to BBC Breakfast at 6 a.m. in Salford? Actually, no. As it happens, I cannot. And so, it's a joke. And this is what number 10 of the North is. It's a joke. It's a joke because all the politicians are down there in the Palace of Westminster. The ones that Burnham should go and speak to in Parliament as our new Prime Minister. Perhaps think about doing that before you go and sit and you slank it with your blimmin' knitting circle up in blimmin' Manchester. But the lobbyists are here, and we have a big problem already with lobbyists getting access to critical parts of the civil service. I remember when I was working with a consortium who just wanted... it's a consortium with Rolls-Royce for small modular reactors, which is the most important thing that we could have in this country. This was about 4 or 5 years ago. You couldn't even get a meeting. You couldn't get a sensible politician to sit down with you. Just... so the idea that actually moving yourself out of London is making yourself accountable, it is the opposite.
Yeah.
The accountability is in London. The lobby journalists, the lobbyists, the civil service, the advisors, your colleagues on the green benches, that is called the accountability. Those are the checks and balances. Not being in some blimmin', rented office up north and saying, I'm closer to the people of Manchester. It's a lie.
Yeah. My thing on this, though, is it's about giving the sense of control back to areas of the country that don't feel that London works for them. He's playing the north-south divide politics.
Oh, he is.
And
He's
it's
playing
very
Mrs. Gaskell.
real. And it's very real, and it's very, very powerful. The north does not like the south at all, realistically. We all band together to hate the French. That's one thing we like. But
I like the
I
French.
know. Oh, God.
I know.
There's always something wrong with one person in there.
I know.
But, yeah, again, and for me, this is what he's doing. He's taking the idea of take back control, using that as a launch platform for what I'm seeing as a general election build-up.
Oh, it's coming, isn't it?
It's coming.
It's coming.
It's coming.
I was down in the pub yesterday, and I was like, that general election is coming, I reckon autumn.
Oh,
and
I think just after conference.
They'd be unwise to delay.
Yeah.
Because the way I look at it, when you look at the polling and how the polling's stacking up and how that would translate into seats, even though Reform is still out polling Labour, Labour would still get a majority because of first past the post. I don't think Reform are ready to fight a general.
Tories
I don't think the Tories are ready to fight a general. The Labour Party can just roll out the candidates that are already there, the MPs who are defending their seats by and large. They've got the sort of Burnham bounce, the idea of this optimism. People out there are too stupid to realise we're just being frog marched into communism because a man looks like a PE teacher.
General election.
Yeah,
fodder.
I think it's happening.
It's fodder.
Oh.
It's happening.
Oh, well.
Brace yourself.
Brace yourselves. It's going to be a long summer followed by a very long autumn, we think. Anyway, don't go anywhere, though, because we are still on air for the next 2 hours discussing this and everything else. There's a lot to sink our teeth into, including your bacon butty. Enjoy that out there. I can see you eating it. Don't look like Ed Miliband. Wipe that grease off your chin. Anyway, we are going to take a short break, but we are back just after this. I'll see you on the other side.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
There we go. If that music, right, if this musical bed was a musical bed for something else other than this show,
Yeah.
what do you reckon it'd be?
I've always thought it was like, do you know, like for the Olympics? Like, coming up, you've got the men's gymnastics at 1 o'clock. Do you know what I mean?
The menu.
Yeah.
That's quite a good one.
Yeah, that's what I think it would be.
Yeah. I did think it could be the sort of music that's... Oh, God, I'm going to sound like a right old privileged snob now. Oh, gosh, not a good example.
Is it for the polo?
No, it's not for the polo. Look, I've been to the polo twice, and both times I was sitting in the boot of a car getting drunk from a wine bottle.
We've been to
There wasn't even
polos.
Actually, the first time I went to the polo, there was no hospitality. There was like a horse truck and a man in a truck.
With a bathtub and gin.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
That is not why one goes to the polo during the week. Because I work at weekends. I don't get to go to the posh polo where people la-di-da and stomp at things. I don't do that. I just go to watch. I don't know what I do. Might just go sometimes. Something to do. Anyway, I digress. What was I talking about? There's this music.
The music, yeah.
Right. So a couple of times when I've gone to do some very serious high-level work abroad, they've stuck me on a flight, which has kindly been in the front of the plane.
I know what you're about to say.
And it's a bit like when you're waiting and the extra good-looking air hostesses come round, because they are the extra good-looking ones.
Yeah.
You get the ones near in retirement down the back. At the front, you've got the hotties. And they come around and they're like, "Madam, would you like a glass of champagne?" And there's some sort of, you know, just menu on your sort of giant screen. And it's that kind of music.
Oh, I completely agree. It's like when you're at a hotel and it's like the hotel welcome screen.
Yeah, the hotel welcome screen.
That's what this is. Yeah.
But actually, I think yours is the most accurate. I do actually think it's...
You got the men's gymnastics at 1, then followed by the men's diving.
Yeah. I
literally,
think you're right.
it feels like it would be like... I just
got
feel Claire Balding should be
lilt
narrating.
to it, doesn't it? Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not the first time I've thought this, actually, if you must know.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I love the fact that you've been harbouring the desire to share this and somehow...
Do you not know I had it like that, ready to go?
I was going to say through psychosis. That is not the word I was looking for. What word was I looking for?
Telepathy.
Telepathy. Why did I say through psychosis?
I don't know.
My God. Thankfully, I don't think we have that. Some might disagree. Although living in this country is enough to push you to it, isn't it? But there you go. Somehow I knew that you wanted to tell me.
Well, yes.
There you go. Right, let us get you up to date with what is going on in the world today. I'm going to remind you, of course, that wildfires have forced 200,000 people to evacuate across southern Europe. Spain has declared a national emergency. France has mobilised its military to tackle the fires. 220,000 now evacuated in France and Spain. Honestly, my heart does go out because... Well,
it was the same in California where you watched like, entire towns just vanish.
And Australia.
Yeah, just disappear and become a cinder. That must be heartbreaking to watch your house just literally burn in front of you.
Yeah.
And, you know, if it's farmland, it's your entire livelihood.
Yeah. No, horrible. Right, let's get back to other stories, domestic stories of the day, because we're joined by Rafe Haydel-Mancou. You know him, we love him. Senior Fellow at the New Culture Forum. I think one of the most... the word sartorial elegance was
again,
made.
I knew you were going to say this, because in my head, I wonder what colour the bow tie is.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Now, that's a man dressed for the polo.
Yes.
He's ready.
Yeah.
Look at him. Oh, what a gorgeous hunk of joy. Hello, Rafe. How are you doing?
Hello, my dear. Always nice to get my nice ego boost every time I see you. Thank you.
I always try and make sure I have the most sort of, you know, verbose and florid, kindly intros to my most beloved of guests. Let us talk, first of all, about... Well, there's been a lot of controversy. I'm going to angle my question a slightly different way here, which is when I spoke to... Vanessa Fager, former prison governor yesterday, who now happens to be Reform's justice advisor, prisons advisor, she said, look, the decision for Axel Rudakubana to have been moved from high-security prison to Broadmoor would have been taken by psychiatrists. It would not have been taken lightly. And Broadmoor is not like the Priory. It is not, you know, he's not going over there for, you know, learning needlework and whatever. But... the headlines seem to be saying something different. Nigel Farage himself seems to be saying something different, suggesting the Southport killer is a monster who played the system and not a patient. We must stop softer sentences by the back door. What is your take on this? Because I must admit, yesterday I was of the mindset that this was probably the right decision to take, because I think he's pure evil. I think he's probably a danger to everyone around him. I think he's probably extremely hard to control, probably beyond any form of rehabilitation, just deeply disturbed, deeply sick, and probably does need to be locked up in a padded cell. But the headlines seem to be trying to point me in a slightly different direction, that I should be outraged by this decision. Can you help me decide which fork to go down?
The tabloids trying to provoke a reaction, really.
Oh, well, who'd have thought?
Well, look, I'm someone who's always understood the need to isolate certain prisoners. Peter Sutcliffe, of course, the Yorkshire Ripper, another equally vile, odious creature, had to be dealt with in that way. But the point is, this is all rather convenient for Axel Rudakubana, isn't it? This was a person who was absolutely fit to stand trial, he was fit to plead, and now suddenly he can't be managed in prison. Was he advised by one of his solicitors, perhaps, or a family member, that, you know, there's no way you're getting out of prison, so why at least don't you have a comfy situation in a quality of life you probably wouldn't have in the real world, given that this person probably wouldn't be able to hold down any reasonable job. He's now being looked after at His Majesty's pleasure with 3 meals a day and quite a nice new, much larger bedroom than he would have had in prison, all at our expense. Look, if someone is as far as I understand it, he's on antipsychotic medicine. I don't know why that can't be given to him in prison. So as long as that treats his outbursts, then I don't see why he can't be held in solitary confinement, where he's not a danger to workers there. You know, he was of course accused of throwing hot water on one of the workers there, or just put him in a position where he doesn't have access to those sorts of things.
Right.
And he's not a very big man, you know. So I mean, if you put him amongst the most dangerous prisoners in a maximum security prison, I think they're pretty well able to look after themselves in there. And it won't be long before he's basically made to find his...
No longer a burden on the taxpayer.
Yeah, so...
Oh,
it happened to Ian Huntley, didn't it, after all?
No, I mean, actually, that is very interesting, because sometimes these stories, you do sometimes think, is this sensationalised? Is this sort of propagandising what's one of the most awful things that ever happen in this country? And I don't like jumping feet first into stories like this, if I'm honest, because I do think there's always a lot more nuance. But, you know, it's not because I'm coming from a position of sympathy for this thing at all. Let's now talk about Andy Burnham, because he's another headline. He's under pressure to block early release of rape gangs. Well, he turned around and said he didn't want early release of anybody. Don't know how he's going to deal with that, given the prison estate is full come November, according to experts. But again, I worry, Rafe, OK? The left are extremely good at politicising and propagandising anything and everything. They even invent stuff to politicise and propagandise. We're going to be talking about a story a bit later on in the programme about this sort of busting the right-wing terror plot that turned out not to be any such thing, which conveniently came as we were all talking about the horrific murder of Anne Widdecombe and the motivations that might be behind that. And I just don't ever want to see the right-wing going down that route and, you know, finding, let's politicise the rape gangs. I have a feeling one particular person and one particular political party definitely has been doing that, and I find it distasteful. But it is a ridiculous situation. It's a ridiculous situation that the Rochdale ringleader is out of prison and back in Rochdale, that he's not on a flight to Pakistan when we give that country 150 million quid in aid. We could just say, no more money for you unless this thing comes back from whence he came.
Yeah, but this doesn't need to be about the rape gangs. This should be about a situation where anybody who has committed violence or sexual assault or domestic abuse, whether the victims are still in society, they should serve out as much of their sentence as possible. And I just think it's so pathetic that nobody in government actually thought, you know what, nobody should be released early if the victim is still out on the streets, because of course justice must be seen to be done, and you are denying justice to the victim if you do that. There are, you know, victimless crimes out there, for example. You know, there are, you know, you want drug dealers to remain in prison, but if someone is caught in possession, some university student of ecstasy for personal possession, and they've gone to prison for that, well, that is a person I would rather see released from prison rather than someone who's committed domestic abuse or rape. You know, prisons are supposed to operate at a 95% capacity. There's supposed to be a 5% buffer.
Right.
When this law came in, when this ruling came in, it was 99.5% capacity. We've now got a bit more breathing space. We're now at 97%, which means we only need to find another 2,000 spare prison places. Well, there are hundreds of people in prison for drug possession. There are hundreds of people in prison for the Southport protests and for tweets and things like that. Now, they're not going to be causing a problem for anybody else. There are also 20% of people in prison are on remand. These are people who haven't had their trial yet. There are lots of people there for things like fraud or first-time offences who could be released from prison. That's 20% of the prison population, let alone the fact that you've got 10,000 foreign nationals in prison. Now, the amazing thing is we do deport about 5,000 foreign prisoners every year, but foreign criminals are such a problem that every time you remove someone, there's another one in to fill the place up. So we do have a huge issue there, but there are solutions to this. Now, what's even more astounding, I looked to see how much it would cost to build a prison for 2,000 people. Now, in 2023, we opened a new prison. That cost 286 million. Today, it would cost 1.2 billion.
Wow.
Just 3 years later, the cost of building a prison has gone up by a factor of whatever, 5 or whatever.
Why is that?
It's unbelievable. 40% increase in labour and construction costs, but also the planning procedure and NIMBYism taking things through the courts. I mean, this is why we can't do infrastructure projects in this country. I don't know how Andy Burnham is going to get ahead with his housing projects, given the rises of costs, but also NIMBYism and court and lawfare. We're in a real pickle here, but there are solutions for the prison system that don't require releasing hardened criminals and violent people and sexual predators.
I totally agree. I think there's multiple capabilities to be able to very quickly build prisons, and you could move the low-security inmates out of a low-security prison into makeshift facilities, Nightingale prisons, and then convert the low-security ones into high-security ones. And when it comes to deporting the foreign prisoners, who make up about 10% of the prison population, we have so few return agreements with other countries. But what we do have at our disposal is foreign aid, which shouldn't be a blank cheque given unconditionally, often going to countries where the ne'er-do-wells come from. But also something that we could look at is what Donald Trump uses fairly well, which is tariffs. We're no longer in the customs union. We could say to countries that we have some sort of trading relationship with, that's it, 80% tariff on anything coming out of Pakistan. Or for instance, they depend upon the exchange of money, Western Union, things like that, being able to go over to give their relatives back in Lahore or whatever. And yeah, you're right, visa liberalisation, just trying to say no visas from your country. There are so many tools that we could use to force countries to take their foreign offenders back. And again, it's, it's instead of anybody doing anything that is assertive, confident, has conviction, and is tethered in any way to common sense, it's, well, let's just let people out of prison instead, which is a ghoulish recipe for disaster.
Yes, and on the issue, for example, of the Rotherham gang leader going back, I mean, I've even heard that rather than use the stick, that the government have been thinking about using the carrot, about increasing aid as a way to basically get them to take them back. And why would they do that? Because there's no incentive for this Labour government to get tough on Pakistan. Look, any normal government that put the British people first would know that visas are so important for Pakistanis, given how large the diaspora is over here and how many want to come over here. Restricting visas to Pakistan would be the greatest tool in our arsenal. But they don't want to do that because they're beholden to the British Pakistani Muslim vote. So many Labour MPs, so many frontbench Labour MPs have tiny majorities, which essentially the Pakistani vote determines, that they're not willing to actually alienate that vote. And also, of course, they don't want to hemorrhage more votes to the Green Party. That's what's really at play here. Yes, we're not as powerful as America in terms of the levers we have, but we still are a powerful country, and we certainly could exert our influence on our strength far more than we are.
Well, actually, we could have a lot more power if we actually simply tried to project it for once. But don't worry, because Andy Pandy to the rescue. I mean, this man looks like a leader. He sounds like a leader. I mean, the sheer determination and conviction, the fact that he nails home points, that you know exactly what he's going to do. We know his plan. He's here to save the nation. Oh, let's have a listen. Oh, we don't have anything.
Yes.
Well, there we go. The computer says,
Well, again,
and
that's
rightfully
not
so. I believe that the computer is probably making a sound decision. I'll read the transcript. It's a clip of Andy Burnham, you know, being hard-hitting because we live in a world of strong men now where governance needs to be done with a degree of spine. I cannot tell. Do you want to read it? Because you've got the accent.
Okay,
Go on.
right.
Just do a Burnham impression.
Where are we reading? I cannot tell you, and not even I'm going to go that much of a parody.
Come on.
I cannot tell you what a profound
Hold on.
moment this
Let me
is.
give you my mascara. It might help you get into character.
Oh,
we got
the
the clip.
eyelashes. Oh, we got the clip.
We got the
Okay,
clip.
there we
Okay.
go.
I cannot tell you what a proud moment this is. I think this might be the best day of my life. I'm not joking either. I know you think I am, but I'm not. Things are just completely coming full circle here for me, and to be here with you all in the heart of Manchester this Friday morning at the end of, you know, a fairly big week is just everything to me.
If I have to watch one more saccharine video of him pulling a pint or talking about his favourite bar snacks with John Healy or whatever thing they've put out today, whatever mawkish, minimalising, utterly moronic, stupid bit of social media tidbit they're trying to throw to us, you know, the sugar to help the Marxist medicine go down. I mean, Rafe, what is this thing we've got now in number 10 of the North?
Well, I just feel sorry for Mrs. Burnham. Imagine your wedding day is not the most important day of your life. It's the opening of a government department in the north of England.
That's so funny.
But yeah, look, he's clearly on manoeuvres. He's clearly, still on a political campaign, potentially for a new election or whatever. I'm just waiting for him to, appear in the next video with his whippets and his flat cap and a pint of John Smith's Yorkshire Bitters in those old commercials, or carrying Hovis up a hill with that music next to him as in that old commercial. That's
peddling his pushback as a young lad.
Yeah, that times were tough, Ibagum.
I tell you what, we got to talk about this actually, because I spotted a story. I don't know if it's in my little selection here, but it's okay. I've got a brain like Forrest Gump. I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing. I don't know. He remembers stuff, doesn't he? Yeah. But the latest sort of pity me story that's coming out of the Labour Party is Lucy Powell, new Education Secretary, trying to outdo Bridget Phillips and I was brought up illiterate with only my grandfather's cigarettes to smoke or something like that. And Lucy Powell's like, yeah, I was brought up in Didsbury. The deprivation was awful. And it's like, huh?
Didsbury's quite
like,
nice.
why do they try and out-poverty each other? Like it's some sort of badge of honour. Look at me, the bleeding heart success story. All I ever had was a packet of stale Twiglets and a warm bottle of Lucozade, and I had to sleep on the floor with my pet mouse called Ben. And it's just always a load of BS.
Well, it's right. It's a complete parody of the Monty Python's Yorkshireman sketch, isn't it? Oh, I used to have gravel for gruel every day, But look, it's obviously a big stick moving up to the north of England. I quite understand why, because the north has been neglected for so long. If you remember that great realignment when the Red Wall voters gave their votes to Boris Johnson. Why did they do that? Because they realised there had been chronic underinvestment in the north of England, and they realised it's because the Tories are neglecting us, because we aren't their voters.
Right.
So they lent those small C patriotic Conservative Labour voters, lent that vote to Boris Johnson. He betrayed that vote. He could have actually cemented that in by proving the levelling up agenda and actually giving them, not Crossrail from Birmingham to London, but actual real northern transport links, improve their quality of life. What did they get? Well, Rishi Sunak filled a few potholes. That's all they got out of that. So that vote has now gone over clearly to reform and to restore and has been cemented in there. So I can quite clearly see what Andy Burnham's goal is here. It's to try to win back the Red Wall voters back to the Labour Party. Right. So strategically, it's a very good thing to do, but it's a big gimmick. And if you're going to be doing it by flying on a private jet up there every week, I think you're not going to be winning over many people's hearts and minds on that level. I don't think you need to have the Prime Minister in the north of England to make the case for increasing investment in the north of England. Neither do I think you need to have the most northern cabinet of all time. If they were meritocratically chosen, yes, but no one can tell me that, Angela Three Pads Rayner, Louis the fraudster Haig, and Jonathan Reynolds, who claimed to be a lawyer when he never was a lawyer, are the best poster children for the north of England.
No, I totally agree, and you're right. It is a total sop to the red wall. You can tell there's got to be a general election. Well, they're going to see. They're looking at the polling. They're throwing all these bits out in the hope that people bite, and then they'll call it if they think they can still get a majority. And I think, sadly, this rubbish works. We've been so infantilised as a nation now. I got into a mild fit of private rage yesterday walking through Paddington Station. This is going to sound really weird, OK? But I came out of the tube and I was going to Paddington Station and I passed a shop selling sandwiches. And the name of the shop was My Favourite Sandwich, and the logo was done in Comic Sans. And I just thought, this is it now, isn't it? We've just been infantilised so much for so long now. We're not allowed to talk about hurty things. We've got to be kind. You know, we're constantly being pumped full of just banal nonsense that we don't talk about issues anymore. We're not allowed to. It might be too hurtful. It might be harmful. Someone might be offended. And everything. I feel like we may as well have blimmin' Barney the dinosaur in number 10 at this point because we're being governed by an emoji.
Yeah, and this is the reason we're in the dire states we're in. This is why Starmer had to go. The number of U-turns he took because he was incapable of staying the course. Every time he took a decision that was in any way quite sensible, his backbenchers would revolt. And, you know, true leadership, you know, Thatcherite leadership is doing stuff that is unpopular. Yeah. The medicine may taste bad, but it's medicine that must be taken. And you have to be honest with the public. And what we're getting from Andy Burnham is he doesn't want to go anywhere near immigration. We know from his track record that he'd rather turn a blind eye to things like the grooming gangs and integration challenges in this country. So he's thought, well, there's too much negativity around Starmer in Labour, so we're just going to focus on the land of milk and honey. You know, it's free food for everybody. And we're going to basically just try to win everyone's hearts without actually letting people understand how tough the road is to take us out of this abyss into those broad sunlit uplands. And so everyone is basically having a classic lesson in snake oil salesmanship from this man.
Well, if I was Reform, I would be spending the next few weeks focusing entirely on immigration, nothing but immigration, the hotels, the HMOs, because Burnham is too frit to even talk about it. If they want to battle in the red walls, that is the topic to win on. Rafe Hadel-Manku, thank you ever so much, my darling. I hate this Care Bear culture. In my real life, I am a Care Bear. Right? I'm genuinely... No, but in like, to people, to my friends, to my family, I always just try and do love. Yeah. I'm a very optimistic, positive person who's like, annoyingly always really happy and lovely and kind and wanting to do things and give things and make people laugh and get the round of drinks in and, you know, in politics and in work, I'm like, you don't effing mess with me. I'll have you.
Yeah, my thing on this, really quickly, is it is a balance between hearts and minds and cold reality. If you just run around saying, this is terrible, that is awful, this is going to get worse, you aren't winning a general election. It is a balance. We, on the right, keep thinking just because we're correct, we're going to win. That doesn't work. No. And that's my fear, is that you're right. This stuff from Andy, it works.
It does work.
It works.
It does work. It's like, it's just giving kiddies sweets, isn't it? And
but then we are the children and we take the sweets.
Well, I don't take those sweets.
Well, for the last 30 years
we have. Hot girl summer means no sugar.
True, true.
Yeah. Right, we're going to be taking a short break after that. It'd be really fun to speak with some of you, actually. So if you fancy it, pick up the blower. Do you want to do the number? I always do the number. Have you got the number? It's there, on the wall.
Oh, here it is, yeah. I should know it. Anyway, I sit here for years.
I still have to read it.
0344 499 1000. And if you want to text, it's 87222. You start your text with talk.
Well done. And the small print?
It's I actually don't know that bit.
Don't cost you anything. Normal network.
Oh, that bit. Yeah. And
also the long number can also be.
Oh, it can also be a WhatsApp as well. But we're being told to break.
I know.
So we go.
I'm winding Faith up.
Yeah, true.
I like to. I'm asserting my authority over the gallery. All right, we're going to take a short break now, but when we come back, we're going to be reading your messages, listening to your voice notes, and maybe having a chit chat. Back in a moment.
Prime Minister in 4 years. Blimey. And, well, look, we want him to succeed. But will this one be any different? Andy Burnham, the new head honcho. 1 minute he was Mayor of Greater Manchester. What, a month and a bit ago, he wasn't even an MP. The next, he's holding keys to number 10.
You know what? I'm trying so hard not to be cynical about it all, but I'm trying to keep, not hope. I'm sick of hearing about hope already. He's only been in government for 5 minutes, but I want them to succeed because I want Britain to succeed.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
All right, let us do some messages, some voice notes, take some calls. Here we go. Morning, Alex. I think Axel Rudakubana being moved to Broadmoor for his own safety from other prisoners that want to harm him. He's not mentally ill, just evil. It's easier to move him than to control the prison state. I don't want to speculate on this because on this one, I'm just going to jury's out. He might have been pushing and manipulating to try and get this move, but I don't think they would have given it to him out of these things. When it comes to sort of high security prisons and admissions to Broadmoor, there is a lot of assessments that have to be done at a clinical level.
Yeah. My uncle works in a prison actually, and he always says that they aren't butlins. The real serious ones. They are serious, and also it is to keep the guards safe as well, who we don't protect at all. We never talk about them.
Most of the time these days, go down a high-security men's prison. It's an OnlyFans model with all the jangling jail keys. It's like, what on earth is this about?
Because,
again, lanyardism gone mad.
It's like we lost all the... It's the same with the police. We lost all the quality because they retired early. It's the same in the prison service.
I just think whenever I read these stories, and it's some sort of weird epidemic going on of, like, female prison officers getting it on with inmates. I'm like, that's probably why female prison officers shouldn't be working in male prisons.
I find that weird.
Like, just don't do that. That's a ridiculous proposition.
To be fair, we put men in women's prisons. Well, just as inmates. So, I mean, at what point do we suddenly realise that,
It's just crazy.
Yeah.
Don't buy this liberal rubbish. We know his story. It doesn't take men in white coats to show why he was dismissed by so-called professionals. This evil man will not be rehabilitated. For the parents of these poor, killed children, their wishes should come first. You're totally wrong about the death penalty. That piece of filth who stabbed young girls to death deserves nothing. You want millions spent on him, death to him, and similar scum. It's not mental health, it's 6th century ideology, says Martin. Look, I agree that, he's sick, that we shouldn't have to spend... Look, I wouldn't be against, a sort of an oubliette with some rats in it for company. I don't think he should be having television and being able to make phone calls. None of that. I think it should be the grottiest, incarceration that you could imagine. Strap him up to some chain gang, I don't care. But I'm afraid I'm a Christian, so I can't be getting on board with... anyone taking someone else's life.
For me, I just don't trust the people who we're giving the ultimate power to. I just don't trust that an institution that has the legal ability to, kill you, it should ever have that power. The relationship between the citizens and the state would fundamentally change. We think everything's a stitch-up already. Imagine what they could do if they've got the right to kill you.
I know.
And that is how fascist states
basically
begin.
That's what I think. No state, whether it be... look, 'cause I'm the same on assisted dying. Someone's death should not be a matter of decision-making by a sort of, little mini tribunal of the elites.
Particularly one that we may never know the people who sit on it.
And it always ends up... It starts like this, thin end of the wedge, and then, what comes in its wake is normally pretty terrifying.
There's a great line, actually, in Star Wars that I'm about to butcher. It says, democracy doesn't die with a gunshot and a cry of a child. It dies to rapturous applause.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's in Star Wars. It's the first one, which is a shame. But it's so true, is that realistically, we end up clapping our own destruction.
Yeah.
And I think the death penalty is a prime example of it.
Oh, I agree. Let's squeeze in Laura Jane, who's in Hampshire. I haven't spoken to you for a while. LJ, how you doing, my love?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, yeah. Sun is out,
Yes, well, exactly. When I was walking the dogs this morning early, it was glorious, glorious. So the Axel Rudakubana conversation, I think that there's a combination of both him maybe playing the system, but I do believe that it must be incredibly hard for prison officers in prisons now. I think we don't pay them enough, we don't respect them enough, we don't understand enough of what they go through. And I do think that, they get that. I'm sure they have their opinion asked, or the governor does, and it would be it would help them to get rid of very difficult prisoners like Axel Rudakubana, because he's already thrown boiling water over a prison officer. He's obviously incredibly unstable emotionally. Whether that makes him loopy or not, I don't know. It makes him evil and unstable for all the reasons that, often these kind of people are. And I just feel that maybe Broadmoor, we have to remember that people like Ian Brady and, some very, very evil people, I think we sort of forget, that those crimes were horrendous, and he was in Broadmoor. And, I feel that there is, it's not as cushy as everyone is making out.
I have no doubt it's not as cushy as everyone's making out, and that's where I think we do have to have a degree of pragmatism about this. And also, you have to have sympathy with the authorities, because, I wouldn't lose sleep if some sort of gnarly prisoner came over and saw Axel Rudakubana in the canteen and shanked him. Really, I wouldn't. But at the same time, the people who govern that prison, who run it, would be facing litigation, a whole load of bureaucracy, because there are laws in place that you can't allow people to just be stabbed up inside prison. And I just think that I am reticent about sensible people on the right using certain sensational headlines and atrocities to just make a political point that sometimes it requires a bit more nuance.
Well, that's the point. And actually, Ian Brady was stabbed, and that's why he died, didn't he? He was stabbed by another prisoner, although he was in Broadmoor, wasn't he? So, it is very dangerous for prisoners like that. Who's serial killers, or it's just, for me, I think that there is a combination of factors, and I do feel that the media sensationalizing it isn't, well, first of all, we don't really know the truth of the matter, and I think we're speculating, as is the media, and I think that it doesn't help the families to see all these. It really doesn't.
No,
and
I agree.
I just think, and the business about capital punishment, I'm with you. As a Roman Catholic, I think we don't have the right to take another life. We have no right on this earth.
Laura Jane, thank you ever so much. It's always a delight to catch up with you. It's funny because, I'm a Gloucester girl, born and raised, and Gloucester's a city, but it's a bit of a parochial city. People tend to be born and bred in Gloucester and stay there. And a lot of people know a lot of people. And every time there's a sort of sensationalisation of Fred and Rose West, every time there's a sort of drama series, every time it's what happened to all of their children in the newspapers, I just think to myself about all the people I know in Gloucester with relatives connected to that horrific series of murders and tortures. The families of the police who had to investigate that, who were traumatised by their findings, and also the children of Fred and Rose West. And because they had plenty of children. And you do sort of sometimes think that we do have this hunger for true crime. That there is something tantalising about rubbernecking over evil. It is fascinating, and it's sort of in human nature to want to look into the dark and to stare into the abyss. But yes, it sells newspapers, and yes, it makes headlines in politics, but I always have this sort of when it comes to stuff like this. Murders. Same.
True crime terrifies me. Just our obsession with it.
Right. Yeah. On that note, we're taking a break. After that, we're going to be joined by my neighbour.
Oh, God, there's two of you.
Well, no, he's a couple of villages down. It's the wonderful James Price. Babbitt-in-Chief is coming up just after this.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, welcome back. Welcome aboard HMS Common Sense, my favourite of them all. Other than you.
Other than Dirty Boat.
Other than Dirty Boat. Other than, you know, good old Officer Barnes over here. Babber-in-Chief, former government advisor James Price, a sensible man who is helping to build the right-wing enclave in the Gloucestershire Cotswolds. How are you doing, James?
Hello, my friend. Do me a favour and reach over the desk and give old P.T. Barnes a clip round the ear for butchering that Star Wars quote just now.
I know. I knew it.
I knew it. This is how liberty dies.
Yes,
thunderous applause.
I did say I was butchering it in my defence.
It's in the third film, not the first one. It's in Revenge of the Sith. Come on.
It is when they all vote to give the Senator the power. Yes, you're right. You're right on that one.
You know what?
Sorry, we nerded out for a moment. There you go.
You know what the punishment is where we're from? We're going to force you to drink a flagon of cider and do spinny broom.
Yes.
I think it's a just and right punishment. I can think of some harsher punishments for others, but for Barnes right now, that'll be fine.
If you survive Spinny Broom, we don't think it's been you haven't endured.
The punishment has been
you've
listening
not
to
endured
Northern
enough.
accents.
Then you're going to have to do the cheese roll next year.
Yeah, no, listening to Northern accents has been
Push
more
you
than
over
a
the edge of
punishment
Cooper's
this week, I have to admit.
Now, James, you and I live downwind of a certain big US airbase, don't we? That's been getting quite busy lately. Oh, loving a bit of them, you know, stuff in the sky. It's great fun. Anyway, less so for the Iranians. But when I read the other day that Iran was saying, right, that's it, we're coming after RAF Fairford, I thought to myself, well, they're not going to be sending an ICBM because I don't think they can. I don't think that the range can get there, even though we wouldn't have anything to shoot it down if they tried. They will probably use a load of IRGC operators and sleeper cells that have already been smuggled into the country. That is how they're going to try and go about this. And then, hello, wake up this morning, and what do we have here? Oh, of course, Iran agents sneak in as channel migrants. I bet they're all down Swindon. Anyway, it's... they will be. No, seriously, I'm not even joking. That's where all the HMOs and the migrant hotels are. It's just the way they've distributed these people. But, I mean, James... You've been a government advisor. Can you explain to me somehow how successive governments, because it ain't just the Labour government, successive prime ministers have failed to turn around and say the illegal boats crossing the Channel presents a major security threat to the UK and therefore, bam, we're going to turn those boats around. Why is it that actually talking about the security threat isn't deemed enough?
Yeah, it's great. It's great that we're now finally getting more people other than you and I and talking about this stuff now. And if in a second you hear the dog barking or you hear something like that, it probably is a B1 from Fairford going overhead because the dog doesn't think that I'm able to hear it by myself and therefore will helpfully bark along with it all. And I think what it does, first of all, is it brings home that this conflict, and indeed every conflict now, is not happening 3,000 miles away. It's not in some foreign, faraway land that we're never allowed to go and visit because the Mad Mullahs won't let us in. This stuff is happening on the ground in Britain as well. And there are very, very, very many brave men and women who will never know their names, will never know their deeds or their exploits, but who put their lives on the line and often will lose those lives in the defence of this country. And instead of being grateful to them, we make that job so much more difficult for the following reason, that politicians don't care enough about security. They certainly might care about it, but they definitely don't care about it as much as they care about various other priorities. And that is, I think, best typified by what's been happening with the small boats coming over in the last few years. Not only on the quantum, not only on the number of these people, but let's put this into context for a second. The number of people who've come over in small boats since 2018 is now almost 3 times as high as we have serving members of the British Army, right? Put that in context. It's way more than double. It's almost approaching 3 times as many people. Now, of those, I'm not saying they are obviously all IRGC members, although 90+% of them are men, and they're all young men who are fit enough to cross over continents and all the rest of it, with very different beliefs about how to treat women, how to treat gay people, how to treat, frankly, anybody else. Just there's a security risk there. But as you say now, and as the Telegraph is reporting, the IRGC and the Iranians are boasting about how many people they've managed to smuggle into the country. And we saw some arrests happening, I think, earlier this year and last year as well, that were linked to the IRGC. Just as you're seeing in the United States, huge numbers of people managed to smuggle across their southern border during the open borders years under Joe Biden. This is an existential issue. But the politicians, Alex, to finish, don't care about this stuff because it would mean having to leave the ECHR and ignoring all of this stuff and stripping the Human Rights Act of 1998 out of the statute books. And they're not willing to do that because there'll be some lefty lawyers who tell them that they're mean and they're basically like Russia for doing it. And that's why we're in the situation we're in now.
What I find so staggering is the recklessness with which we handle these unidentified fighting-aged men who have already broken multiple laws and proven themselves to be quite industrious, quite tenacious to be able to make it to the UK, fraternising with some pretty unpleasant characters in the process. And the fact that they are put in hotels where the security on the door is to stop journalists like you and I going and seeing what happens in there. It's not to stop them leaving. It's not to stop them having weapons under their pillows or going out and working in the black market or dealing drugs or anything else. And now the solution to the problem seems to be, well, let's put them on military bases. And I thought, well, that's not a bad idea. Chicken wire fence, secure them in that accommodation, don't let them out. No, no, no. They can just come and go as they want. And worse still, the idea of HMOs, where do you think people are going to be making, you know, bomb vests and, you know, cutting up rice in? You give them a house in a, you know, quiet, sleepy village and go, oh, there you go, integrate, have some fun, no one's watching what you do. You're basically aiding and abetting them. When the mass atrocity terror attack happens, and it will happen, it will happen. We have to intercept them every single time. They just have to get away with it once. And if there's a coordination and the button is pressed and all these sleeper cells are told, get out there and, you know, do as much harm as possible, we're stuffed. We're stuffed. And it terrifies me thinking of these men being put in HMOs. It's crazy.
Well, you say it will happen. Of course, it has already happened multiple times in multiple different ways.
Yes.
You've seen multiple examples of this, not just here, again, in the United States. And the reason I keep mentioning that is that I hope that when American attitudes change, that will flow down here as well. There was someone who screamed that old lovely cliche of Allahu Akbar and killed a Jewish person and another Asian person in New York City only 2 days ago. Unsurprisingly, given the mayor of New York City is clearly a rabid anti-Semite who just hates the Jews, who doesn't seem to care too much about any of it. But these things are already happening. And the bit, Alex, that scares me, and that I'm sorry to upset everybody on a beautiful Saturday morning, there's no strategy for this. There is a coping mechanism of, OK, well, the boats arrive, we'll pick them up and we'll try and, like, fingerprint them if we can catch some of them, and we'll put them in these hotels. And if they're not too naughty, then we'll put them in an HMO and we'll keep fingers crossed. And we'll keep our ears to the ground and we'll hope that GCHQ can tap their phones and all this stuff. There is no strategy for dealing with this. There was an attempt at a strategy under the Tories, which was to have the Rwanda scheme as that deterrent, and to say that if you enter the country illegally, you will never be allowed to stay, which were good ideas, both of which were cut short because Rishi stupidly called the election before the proof of concept was able to be proven. And also two things that the Labour Party got rid of immediately upon getting into office. So there's no strategy for how to stop the numbers of these guys coming over. What was the super mega double-sized dinghy that came over yesterday? 160-odd people on one bloody boat. It's not much of a dinghy by that point. But there is no strategy, just as there is no strategy for broader integration. No, when I say strategy, I mean a long-term plan to actually fix the fundamental root problems here, rather than just day-to-day law enforcement trying to prevent or stop bad things from happening. There is no strategy from the current government, nor, frankly, it seems to me, from whatever I've been able to piece together, by the civil servants who you would think would be tasked with longer-term non-political strategies, and that's what really scares me.
It scares me to death. They may as well at this point put all these men with machetes inside a wooden horse and deliver it into Trafalgar Square and say at midnight they're all going to jump out and, you know, burn down the city gates. Because it's a Trojan horse in plain sight. But the strategy is this, though, it seems. The strategy is always to suppress conversation, to censor information. And I was reading the other day that the brilliant Robert Bates, who has been battling long and hard using FOIs and legal processes to try and get data and statistics on foreign nationals and crime rates, that actually the Justice Department are trying to use every little piece of lawfare to prevent the British public ever knowing the danger, the peril that they have put us in for open borders.
Yeah, absolutely right. And Rob Bates deserves a lot of credit for that. What's his outfit called? The Centre for Migration Control? I think people should have a look at it. I think it's doing great work. Because I think what we will discover if that information is released is the uncomfortable truth that we all know to be true, which is that crime rates differ based on nationality. The number of Japanese people in the United Kingdom committing crimes is very low. In fact, it's obviously much lower than the rate of the average Brit doing it. The rate of crime being committed by your average Eritrean, much higher. And that is an uncomfortable truth, but it is true. And we see this in the data when it does get released in European countries like in Denmark and in the Netherlands. And therefore, maybe we should start to tailor our immigration system for that. I wouldn't mind there being more Japanese people because they don't commit crimes. And we also know from the economic data that they contribute much more than they take out of that system. Right. Great. Okay, and I'm not sure we have a problem of having loads more doctors and engineers from Japan coming in.
I'd have no issue just having a lot more Christians. You know, people who are actually fleeing persecution in the middle band of Nigeria at the hands of Islamists, rather than just importing the blimmin' Islamists. And another example of this lying, gaslighting, nasty governments, and thankfully successive governments, and Whitehall and the lot of them. Here we go. We've now got someone who's a whistleblower from the grid, right? The National Energy System Operator, NESO. They're not allowed to give us this information publicly. No, we can't ever know that lanyardism is going to lead to blackouts. Apparently, a report that circulated internally has now been disclosed to the Times by a leak, which basically says that the grid, NESO, cannot accurately model the modern power system as the government pursues its mad drive to net zero, which puts us at greater risk of blackouts and higher electricity bills. The reports show on June the 23rd this year, the electricity grid breached 5 operational safety constraints. System security was compromised. To keep lights on, we have to balance supply and demand. And what we saw, we were just talking about this earlier on the programme, in Spain and France a year ago, was massive blackouts because of solar farms. And there are two schools of thought on this. Either there was a super surge because of the hot weather and it blew up the grid, or some pesky people in China who have their fingers on a remote kill switch decided it'd be fun and games to mess with civilian infrastructure. Either way, we're not allowed to know how reckless their pursuit of their sort of neo-religious zealotry is for the everyday man and woman.
The only hope, of course, is that the lights literally go out under one of these Labour governments very soon, and we're seen up for all the nonsense of going around talking about buses and all this sort of stuff that Andy Burnham cares about. And people need to realise, I'm afraid, how we have been teetering on the edge of the abyss. I think you mentioned the abyss just before the break, Alex, and of course, as Nietzsche says in Beyond Good and Evil, if you stare into the abyss for too long, the abyss starts to stare back at you. And we really are getting towards that situation when we look at the energy mix and makeup that we've got. And it's coming from, again, the Tories were very bad at this. Theresa May trying to make a legacy. We should criticise her very heavily for her complete lack of economic understanding on this, or frankly, very much else. But if you meddle with the rules and laws of supply and demand, don't be surprised when those laws of supply and demand come back and bite you on the bottom. And I think it's really, really important that when people listen to this story and any future energy story, they remember 2 very important things. One, that we have the most expensive energy, the most costly energy in the developed world, may be tied with the Germans, who've got an equally mad system as we do, and the bills are split slightly differently. But the reason for this is because we banned fracking and we banned North Sea oil and gas and all these other things that have meant the Americans have now got massive energy exporting that they can do. So they've got energy independence, their bills are much lower, they've got a thriving industry, not least in AI, which takes up lots of energy. And the left will try and trot out this thing of saying, well, there's no point in getting North Sea oil and gas or in fracking or anything else, because energy just gets sold at the international rate, which is a completely lefty take of not being able to understand how supply and demand works. Because if that were the case, why is it that the Americans' bills are a third of what ours are? Why is it that the French bills are half of what theirs are? Because they actually generate more of this stuff themselves. There is greater supply to meet any kind of higher demand. And if you meddle with these fundamental laws of economics, don't be surprised when it comes back to screw you.
Well, there you go. Thus said Baba-in-Chief. And do you know what? I'm just thinking, James, I've got to take you to one of my new favourite pubs, which is right at the bottom of the Fairford apron. You can sit there in the sunshine, beautiful little village pub, having a glorious pint, and they do amazing pork scratchings as well. And you sit there, and all of a sudden, the trees start to rumble, and your hair starts to stand on end. And massive B1s just take off and soar over your head. And you go, go on, sons, yeah.
As the American Mrs. Price will do every single time, she will go in the garden and scream, "That's the sound of freedom!" And I remind her that it's her tax dollars that pay for it.
Hey, I do love it though. It is the sound of freedom, and I cheer them on all the time. Apparently, the pubs of Fairford, mullets everywhere. We'll go and have a little peruse, I reckon. Pricey?
That's brilliant, and we can quote Star Wars and Nietzsche there as well.
Oh, you come join us, Barnsley.
Yeah.
It's time for you to
Definitely.
village the local village pub, the
100%.
infamous local. Right, okay. I'll speak to you soon, James. I'll hopefully see you soon because he's back in the wonderful wilds of the West. And as for you guys, I'll see you on the other side of this break.
Our fifth Prime Minister in 4 years. Blimey. And, well, look, we want him to succeed. But will this one be any different? Andy Burnham, the new head honcho. 1 minute he was Mayor of Greater Manchester. What, a month and a bit ago, he wasn't even an MP. The next, he's holding keys to number 10.
You know what? I'm trying so hard not to be cynical about it all, but I'm trying to keep, not hope. I'm sick of hearing about hope already. He's only been in government for 5 minutes, but I want them to succeed because I want Britain to succeed.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
I feel like I'm making a rap music video today because I can't get this earpiece quite right, so I feel like I'm sort of, you know,
Oh, I just thought you had a
on
twitch.
the decks. Yeah.
I thought you had a
I'm like,
twitch every
yeah,
now
it's
and
not
then.
because I got a crick in my neck because I slept funny. It's just, I don't know. So my normal earpiece has gone roaming.
Yeah. You didn't have it last week.
No, because it's gone roaming.
Oh,
it's on
right.
holiday somewhere. I don't know. Last time I saw it was at CPAC with Ted, and then it's gone now.
Oh, right, okay.
And Mark Dolan's like, I've got an earpiece for you.
Oh.
And actually, it does sort of fit in my ear, which is rare because I find it very difficult getting things in my tiny little ear orifices. Orifici?
Orifices.
But I actually find it impossible to. I can't understand how it works. Every time I come in, I'm like, Mark, wait, can you put it in my ear for me, please? The handover is becoming quite hands-on.
Yeah, to be fair, we leave it very much to the last second.
Well, that's them. They do. They mix. When I was a breakfast presenter, I came up with Retro Rewind, where we picked a year and sort of did the memories, went down memory lane. That was my idea, that thing. And then Mark's got it, so he and Denya are still enjoying doing that, so they don't want us in here. Really.
That's true, yeah.
We don't get to do the handover.
Yeah.
Right. Oh. OK. Should we have a chit-chat?
Yes, definitely.
Well, good. I'm glad you want to, because we've got Mandy in Worcester on the line.
Wonderful.
Hello, Mandy.
Good morning. It's still morning, yes.
Just about. You've got 3 minutes, 30 seconds of the AM left.
Good morning. I wanted to talk about the issue with all these Islamists coming over from Iran. It was something that many of us have been talking about for years.
Right.
Years and years on social media, on my social media, and many of my friends have been talking about this issue and saying that this was a Trojan horse and that these people were coming over and sneaking in and, you know, getting distributed all over the country. And now, all of a sudden, it's all come out. And
Because it's obvious, right? And what I don't understand is we don't just have a government that is lacklustre and unable to deal with this through lack of want, lack of spine, because they just don't have the minerals or the brain cells. I don't know. I cannot even begin to wrap my head around the diabolical negligence when it comes to this particular topic. But it seems to me they actually want to aid and abet them. They want to give them phones, give them houses to live in where they're secreted away in every pocket of the country. Are they actually just working with them at this point?
I know. And I mean, many of us were called the most awful names, racists, bigots, all the rest of it for saying these things. But, I mean, it was obvious what was going on. No, but they weren't being checked properly, and they're just being brought in and just chucked all over the place. And as was it Operation Scatter by Ms. Rayner, all over the place?
I mean, that's actually got such a dark name.
Yeah.
But it does sound, when it comes to calling it Operation Scatter, it does sound a bit like, all right, get on the phone to my mate, Abdul down.
Scatter.
Yeah.
It's actually what they used to say at the end of Shameless. Scatter.
It just feels... No, but it does feel like, are they literally on the blower down the Taliban going like, right, how do you want us to do this? Where do you want us to put the HMOs? Which pockets of the country have you not managed to infiltrate yet?
Yeah, it does feel like you're rather literally helping them kind of move throughout the country.
Or we better get you a smartphone so you can get the recipes for ricing off the internet. I mean, it's just... I can't... This, like I said, when the day comes, and it will come to pass... It will. And if it is a sort of mass-coordinated October the 7th style attack on the scale that it was in Israel, we're looking at a casualty rate of upwards of 9,000. Upwards of 9,000 citizens could be slaughtered. When that day comes to pass, all of them in Whitehall, all of the NGOs, all the lefty libtard politicians, they have blood on their hands, and I mean that sincerely.
Absolutely.
Mandy, thank you ever so much for your call, my darling. I've got to love you and leave you because we've got to get to the final on-the-hour advert break, where I am beholden to its exact timings. Yeah. Normally, I just play a bit loosey-goosey with when we do commercials, but no, the countdown is already in my ear. But don't you go anywhere, because when we come back, it'll be Steve Gill, former White House official, joining us.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
All right, welcome back. We've just learned that there's a new addition to the Ofcom word list, which I used before the break. So I won't repeat it to point out which one it was, but dear Ofcom, I'm sorry, I didn't know you had extended your seemingly infinite list of naughty words that...
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
You don't know. And then sometimes you say a word and it's like, that's OK. You're allowed it. And I'm like, oh, whoa.
I find that quite interesting.
But how are you supposed to know? Are we supposed to every morning wake up and, like, recant, you know, sort of go through everything that, you know, all the language of the world and know what we can use and what we... It's so ridiculous.
It is. It's crazy. Because it's just shutting down any legitimate criticism. That's all it's doing. It expands and expands and expands. But it's what these people do. Eventually, they'll just come up on the television every morning and they'll say, these words are now not available.
Yeah, exactly.
Literally, that's what... Yeah.
They'll get pinged on our mobile phones.
As I always remind people, 1984 was written as a warning, not an instruction manual.
Oh, my goodness me. I mean, look, I actually largely defend Ofcom because I still believe...
Yeah.
I'm going to say this. It upsets sets a lot of the independent media on edge. But when you have all these people going, oh, no, I'm the independent media. I don't, you know, I'm not in anyone's hands. I'm like... Yeah, you are, though. You're in the hands of the algorithms, and once you start ploughing a certain furrow, you can't move away from it because then you lose your audience, and then when that starts happening, you've got to get more and more extreme. You end up on that Candace Owen curves where you just basically start saying mad stuff.
I love that. That's the name of it.
Yeah, that's what I call it, the Candace curve.
Candace curve.
And then what happens when that doesn't work anymore, you just normally take a handout from someone like Qatar.
Eventually.
So I always quite like the fact that I have a sort of light touch regulator keeping me in check, and I'm part of the Murdoch crew.
Yeah.
Thanks, Uncle Rupert.
Yeah. Thanks, Rupes.
Thanks, Rupes. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
Right. Let's do some messages.
Yes.
We are awaiting the arrival of Mr. Steve Gill from America. We've got some good stuff to talk about coming out of the States.
Oh, my God, yes.
Some mad headlines today.
Can I just say something really quickly, though?
No.
Oh, OK.
Yeah, no, go on.
Just really quickly, because James said it, you said it, and Rafe said it. It really annoys me how we have to say, not everybody coming here is a criminal. We have to keep qualifying ourselves.
They are a criminal.
Yes, of course, yeah. But what I'm saying is, why is it that we always have to keep qualifying, that we're not making this kind of broad, sweeping generalisation? I find it exhausting.
It's the mad, weird, unspoken rules, especially in politics, because there was also something at one point that you couldn't say, you couldn't talk about the health service, which is on its knees and just, you know, in dire straits, without saying hard-working doctors and nurses.
Yeah,
you used to always have to say hard-working doctors and nurses every time. Now you can't say the NHS.
Yeah.
You have
Our
to say
NHS.
our NHS. I hate all this rubbish.
The worst one was always, and all other forms of hate, when we talked about anti-Semitism. We couldn't just talk about that one. It was, and all other forms of hate, was always the phrase that followed it.
All the forms of hate.
Yes.
We should make a little nursery rhyme song. You know, A is for anti-Semitism, B is for bigotry. Yeah.
I'll write it while you talk.
Oh my God, that's such a fun game. When I can't sleep at night, I actually do an alphabet in my head, and I've been running out of topics. I tried to do A to Z of cheese the other day, and some of those letters are not easy to navigate in the world of dairy products. I did get quite far, and I've run out of topics to you, so actually I'm going to do the A to Z of forms of hate when I'm struggling to sleep tonight. That will keep me entertained. Right. Steve Gill is with us. Hello there, Steve. Good afternoon from where I am. Good morning to where you are. How are you doing?
Great. Good to be back with you guys. How are you?
We're okay. We're doing very well, considering we now have an emoji in number 10, and number 10 isn't even in number 10 anymore. I don't know if you've heard this. We've now got some sort of fake news 10 Downing Street in Manchester with a man famous for his eyelashes and not much else. So things are going swimmingly over here, you'll be pleased to know.
If I use the emoji of the little pile of poop, is that hate speech?
Eventually.
We'll soon find out. By tomorrow, Ofcom will have added it to the list.
Ideas.
Yeah. Oh, right. Let us start off with a clip, shall we? Because Donald Trump never wants to miss an opportunity to stir the pot and, you know, poke a stick in the hornet's nest. Was at the Correspondents' Dinner last night, which is always an opportunity for the President to stand up and, well, essentially do a little bit of reverse roasting. This is what he had to say.
tonight to show just how much I care about the press, and I want to save your ratings. I'm pleased to announce my intention to, and this is somewhat of a scoop, my intention to run for a 4th term as President of the United States. I won 3 times. Now I'm going to do it again. Thank you. I'm going to do it. Should be easy. I'm getting very good at running for president. No, I won 3 times, did very well the 2nd time, by the way. It's a rigged election, but we don't have to talk about it.
I mean, it's all in there. That's trigger bingo, isn't it, Steve? Do you know what? The more he does stuff like this, the more I love him.
You know, he doesn't just live in their heads. He has a whole condominium complex with parks and commercial establishments. It's an entire community in their heads, and he knows how to push it and literally send them off. I thought he was actually more restrained last night than we've seen in just his regular speeches. I mean, he's got comedic timing. He is the funniest president we've ever had, and man, he was playing it on all fours last night.
But this is the thing. Is he actually serious about this? Can it be done? Can he manage to change the American Constitution, if that is what needs to be changed, enabling him to go for what would be a 3rd term or 4th term, as he deliberately dropped in there the reference points to believing that when Biden got in, it wasn't due to a fair and democratic process. That always gets them riled, doesn't it? But is he being serious? Because the thing is about Donald Trump, I know he likes to provoke people. He loves to provoke a response. This is what that correspondence dinner is all about. But also, he often says things that he means.
Well, not in this case. And I think that what you have is that he did bring the receipts a week or so ago, even though the mainstream media here didn't cover it, to show that the election was, in fact, stolen in these key states where he had 20,000 vote margins and 150,000 votes that didn't meet any kind of credibility standards. But I think you've always got to know with Donald Trump, you have to take him seriously, but not literally. And again, he's serious about a lot of things, but when he says things, you can't take everything literally. He was purely trolling the press last night, and the fact that you've got many of them talking today, could he do it? Is it possible? I think is exactly what he was playing to.
I think he's gearing up to hand the baton to Rubio. At one point, I thought it was going to be JD, but I'm pretty sure it's Marco now that's probably going to be the next flag bearer for the Republican Party. Do you think
and
that's
Rubio
right?
has the advantage of having a real job. I mean, as the vice president,
Hasn't he got 7 or something?
Yeah, one of our former historians, said, or leaders said once that the vice presidency is like a warm bucket of spit, and that's kind of where you have J.D. Vance. He really doesn't have a job. Rubio is going all over the world, getting things done, and that's going to play pretty well in a couple of years. Now, I don't think that Vance and Rubio want to go head-to-head against each other. I think Vance mainly doesn't want to go head-to-head. I wouldn't be surprised to see a Rubio presidency and Vance moving into a real job in another term as a Secretary of State or as a different senior-level cabinet official, so that he'd have a real job looking down the road. But then you've got, do you have Barron Trump, who's going to, maybe that hat's really, intended for, Don Jr. or one of the other Trumps to wear that hat at some point. It just says Trump. It doesn't have a first name.
Oh, I love it. Keep it in the family. That is so American, actually. I love that. Let's talk about Barron Trump, because here we go. It was only a matter of time. Look, the Tate brothers have rightfully been arrested in America. I am hopeful that, the administration knows better than to try and prevent their extradition. They are wanted for extremely serious, grave allegations in Europe, and they must face those charges. They must. That is my view. It's not like it's a big mystery. They sat there making videos to get loads of clicks saying this is how you turn vulnerable women into, webcam girls. They're monsters, in my opinion. But unfortunately, they seem to be monsters who had struck up a friendship with the president's youngest son, Barron Trump. And now we have, never to miss an opportunity, a Democrat has turned around and demanded that 20-year-old Barron Trump go and testify in Congress over his alleged links to the manosphere. Now, are we really supposed to believe that Barron Trump is sitting there, you know, part of a cartel, a pyramid scheme of, you know, trying to traffic women into being on OnlyFans? Is this political opportunism, or is there a bit of a concern here that maybe there is a connection and it ain't going to look good?
Look, you've got these guys, first of all, we've deported people for less. The evidence against these guys is insurmountable, and they should be on the next plane out. Like you've said, they are, you know, absolute monsters. The idea that Barron Trump at 20 is somehow operating an OnlyFans cartel from inside the White House is ridiculous, and it's part of the Trump derangement syndrome that apparently is now leaping generationally from Donald Trump to his son. And they've tried it, you know, in the past, you know, making comments about, you know, his granddaughter Kai or Don Jr. or the other Trump family. The idea that Barron Trump should be testifying about anything with these guys is ridiculous, and again is a reflection of Trump derangement steroids or Trump derangement syndrome on steroids.
Let's talk now about Iran. Weirdly, we had a quiet day yesterday. Nobody chucked missiles at anybody, although I do think that didn't some of the proxies chuck some stuff in the direction of Saudi Arabia or something. But where do we go from here? Trump has talked about there being a massive attack. We know that he had to swap planes at the NATO summit after there was an Iranian threat against Air Force One. He's come out and warned China and Russia that interfering in the Iran war would be very bad for them. He said that, oh, well, I've had reassurances from Xi Jinping. They're definitely not giving weapons or help to Iran. Yeah. Even though Putin's up to bad things in Ukraine, he's not helping Iran. I'm sorry, they are. They both are. They have been for a long time, and we know that categorically. So how does this now play out next?
Yeah, I think that, you know, there are a lot of folks in the U.S. that are thinking that President Trump should have been much more harsh militarily on Iran earlier. You cannot trust these folks. They've shown for 47 years that what they say and what they do are completely disconnected. We've seen it over the last several months with the on-again, off-again negotiations where one group will reach an agreement and then the IRGC will keep, as you say, chucking missiles and rockets into their neighbors and into civilian targets. So I think we have reached the point where President Trump is going to have to continue to eradicate levels of leadership. And if this group doesn't want to reach a deal, fine, we'll kill you off. And maybe the next group will be willing to actually be a little bit more reasonable. You've got to hit them harder. President Trump has tried to be somewhat kind in not eradicating the economy of Iran because it would have an impact on the Iranian people who are not responsible for what's going on. But at this point, I think you've got to completely destroy their capacity to rebuild weapons and maybe start hitting some of their oil resources, since there are other countries that can provide, you know, for the gap that might be created. And I think that's where we're headed. And unfortunately, I think it's going to mean a lot more destruction in the short term, more chaos in the energy sector around the world in the short term. But in the long term, you have to remove these people from being able to have the threat on the Strait of Hormuz, on their neighbors, and on the region. And beyond, as we've talked before, if they develop a suitcase nuke and put it in, you know, Piccadilly, you know, Circus, if they put it in Times Square, the economic impact of that, again, it doesn't have to do massive destruction, kill tens of thousands of people. Just a dirty bomb, a dirty nuke in any of those major population centers would have huge economic impact.
No, I totally agree. And finally, though, the problem that we especially face in the United Kingdom is we've become a bit of a tripwire for Donald Trump's geopolitical exploits, because the vengeance-adoring death cult mullahs have decided that in retaliation for any assertive action taken by American military, they're going to target the airbase in Gloucestershire that I live next to, Fairford. And of course, our idiot successive governments and civil service have been allowing multiple IRGC operatives to just waltz on into Britain, to be spread around the country, ready to carry out an attack on our home soil. So basically, what are we going to do about that?
Well, you have the same problem that we had when the border between the U.S. and Mexico was wide open. It wasn't just South Americans and Central Americans coming in to look for jobs or look for free stuff from American taxpayers. we weren't vetting who was coming in with really nefarious intent. Terrorists and cartels were coming and waltzing across the border too. You've had the same thing with the little boats, floating across the channel. It's not just people coming to get on the dole in England. It's who's there who are setting up these terrorist underpinnings that can be activated at any time. So it has been a threat for a while, but now, as you point out, just kind of waving the fast pass to come in to people who are not just possibly dangerous, but clearly dangerous to the British people is again mind-boggling. And we've seen the same thing here. President Trump has really kind of locked down the access with a lot of points, but man, you still have too many people who are overstaying visas, coming under false pretenses, and you guys have the same exact problem.
Steve, if I could ask you a little favour at the end of this interview, as a former White House official, can you go and speak into the right ears and say, do you know what Britain could do with more American bases? I would happily have your Marines, your GIs, your Air Force. You send as many of them over here as you like. I'm not joking. No, I'm not joking. We are so ill-equipped at dealing with what is going to be an imminent terror attack in this country. We've got a diminished army. We got nothing. We can't defend ourselves. Our biggest airbase, Bryce Norton, some mad pro-Palestine, activists, just managed to break into it. Not that long ago. It's crazy, Steve. So please speak to the right people in the Pentagon or in the Oval Office and say, Alex Phillips over there in the UK asks if you'd send us more, please.
From your mouth to my ears, to my mouth, to them. And I am reminded in World War II when the British were complaining when all the U.S. soldiers and Marines and every airman came to England, that the complaint that some in Britain expressed was the problem with the Americans is that they are overstressed, oversexed, overly loud, and mainly over here. But we are happy to come back over there.
That sounds like a recipe of fun to me. Steve, thank you ever so much. It's always amazing catching up with you. I actually, genuinely, I would welcome...
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
I would say they want to send as many troops to Fairford as possible, liven up the pub scene. But, no, but seriously, yeah. I actually think we're at a stage now that if America said, for the safety and security of Europe, because they're not getting along as well with Germany anymore, we should take the opportunity and say move those bases to Britain. That actually helps plug gaps in our own armed forces while we fail to, sort out a defence investment programme.
Yeah, true. But however, we would probably end up giving the base away to to Mauritius or something like that, just for the sake of it.
To migrants, mate.
Yeah, probably.
Obviously.
Yeah, no. That's part of the problem, is that we are the partner that has to be worked around and not with.
Oh, I know.
That's the sad, depressing bit.
One day, maybe it'll all be different. Right. We're going to be taking a short break now. Coming up after the break, a really brilliant article by veteran journalist Sue Reid. I think the last remaining proper hack in the British press. One of the greatest that has ever been let loose in the sheets of Fleet Street. She's written a fantastic article today. Again, and as soon as this thing happened, I was like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
We had the horrific, brutal murder of Anne Widdecombe. Everybody asking questions. Well, let's not answer those. Let's have a little distraction over here with somehow busting a far-right terror plot that never existed. Sue's going to explain more after this.
fifth Prime Minister in 4 years. Blimey. And, well, look, we want him to succeed. But will this one be any different? Andy Burnham, the new head honcho. 1 minute he was Mayor of Greater Manchester. What, a month and a bit ago, he wasn't even an MP. The next, he's holding keys to number 10.
You know what? I'm trying so hard not to be cynical about it all, but I'm trying to keep, not hope. I'm sick of hearing about hope already. He's only been in government for 5 minutes, but I want them to succeed because I want Britain to succeed.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, welcome back to the show. And without further ado, let's welcome Sue Reid to the programme, because she is one of the greatest journalists that we have living in this country. Sue, I saw your article this morning and straight away I messaged my producer and said, let's see if Sue wants to come on. And without any more introduction, tell us what your article was all about.
The article was about an event in Suffolk organised by a Islamic group that is based in Dewsbury, but it is an enormous group. You know, we're talking about 100 million followers throughout the world. And they had a festival, in inverted commas, which in Arabic can be translated to gathering or congregation. There were talks, there were prayers. And this was watched by a group of 12, not all from one organisation, but one main organisation was the British Security Project, which is a rather ragtag group, and they were dressed in paramilitary kit. They put a drone over, but the whole event was stopped because of this. The festival goers were safeguarded by anti-terror police and taken out of the venue, and the 12 were arrested. The 12 were then held for 6 days, but meanwhile, and this is incredibly significant in intervening in the legal process, very strong statements about anti-Muslim hatred were made by the outgoing Prime Minister, the Home Secretary, and indeed the incoming Prime Minister Burnham. And I think this is actually, not only do I think or observe or believe that the whole thing was an overreaction at the festival regarding anti-terror police, but I am worried about this very early intervention by ministers into the legal process, especially when two of them, Sakir and the Home Secretary, are lawyers.
I mean, I think everyone listening to this show right now, every time something like this happens, their inclination is to go, oh, what a very convenient coincidence that 1 minute we're asking questions about an atrocious, horrific murder and whether or not that has been politically motivated. And yay, we can talk about there being a far-right terror plot. The minute that anything happens, the minute there's an Islamist attack, the minute there is some sort of, you know, misdemeanour from the left wing of politics, whatever, they find a way to turn the tables and go, well, it's you guys. Actually, the problem's you guys.
I think that very early on, people realised that this may have been part of to try to, not a cover-up, to divert people's attention away from a very haphazard investigation into Anne Widdecombe's brutal and disgusting murder. You know, I was in South Africa working, and I was getting calls and, you know, messages from a real variety of people worldwide saying, what is this? You know, whatever happened to Anne's investigation? What's this other thing happening? You know, people were aware, but it has taken a few days to trickle out. But people are on the left, and I really do mean this, they are not happy about this being exposed, or articles like mine. I mean, only today, and I won't name the paper, but let's say it's our leading left-wing paper in Britain, at 6 o'clock, and again this came from the other side of the world, there was an article about another Islamic gathering, I believe of peace-loving Islams, we're told, Islamic, elsewhere in Britain, and it reported 12 people were arrested on suspicion of far-right threats in the article at 6 o'clock. And it did not say those people have been cleared. It's very important to say these people were cleared of terror offences. And so we've still got reports coming out saying this happened, but nobody's saying, actually, they were let out and they were cleared. And I think that is terrible. And but I can only say the veracity of the article was slightly kiboshed by the fact they said the event was last month, June, when it happens in July.
These events, Sue, you do...
But still, it is there, and people have clicked on it all over the world. It was on a world... anyone could click on this article, free article, in a leading national newspaper, and it was... it wasn't fair. Well, really unfair. No. Biased, basically.
So you do such important work. Like I said, one of the only journalists out there really doing proper journalism. And I mean that in all sincerity. I think you're the last. You're like a unicorn. What do you make of the story of the IRGC, getting all their operatives in over the channel? Of course they are. And another thing I want to ask is, what do you know about jihadi training camps in the UK? Because if anybody will have looked into the whole, let's learn some paintball in the Lake District, that's all fun and innocent, it's probably you.
Funnily enough, in May, I did say under an article, a big feature, are the IRGC sending their people in on the boat? ? Because I was hearing from Iranians in Britain that it was happening. I hadn't seen it or proven it in Calais, but I was hearing it, multiple times from Iranians here. And they said that the IRGC is incredibly active here, and I really mean active, on the streets of Liverpool, West London, and I said this in the article. So it's a perfect opportunity. The small boat, nobody's, I've talked about 50-minute checks on the coastline. We have open borders. We don't know who's coming in. And that's the problem. But may I just say one more thing, Alex?
Always.
About this, statements and the safety of our Muslim community. Today in Birmingham, there is an emergency national conference on UK mosque safety with some very eminent imams taking part. And I think it shows, however worthy it may be, that there is a bend. It is the safety of our Muslim community, people perceive as being given priority over others' safety. And I think, whether that's right or wrong, it's an incredibly dangerous situation because people feel it's unfair, and then they get angry, and then they act. And that is what I think the government has been wrong about hyping the, hatred against Muslims, but not highlighting other hatred against other religions or communities. We give 46 million now to mosque safety, and that's nearly 10 million more than we give to the Jewish community for their religion, for synagogues. And it's, it completely outweighs anything for the Christian community safeguarding of their churches. So it builds an anger, and I think that is the underlying problem, and Suffolk will not have helped. Believe me, it will not have helped.
Look, it is it's funny, isn't it? An emergency conference. Oh, well, there you go. That lovely convenient timing's back again.
When an emergency comes in, you see, you think, oh, heck, this is, this has been called, I don't know when it was called or arraigned, but the word emergency is now in there. So that is not a good word, is it?
It's not a good word. But yeah, no, finally, Sue, I don't know, if you've never looked into it, then I beg of you, go look into it. But I just wondered if you did know anything about it. Speaking to people who, do a lot of work in the intelligence industries, and someone just said to me, you have jihadi training camps in the UK. It was an Australian guy. He said, you have jihadist training camps in the UK. They're teaching all these young Muslims, come, practice the Quran, learn how to do parkour, play a bit of paintball. He's like, those aren't innocent activities.
Yes, I do think the innocent activities, if that's what we're talking about, are also an umbrella for allowing people to infiltrate, the wrong uns to infiltrate and gather together. But again, it's part of the portrayal of one community as entirely blameless and innocent and put upon and victim. That's how the ordinary Brit sees it up in my part of the world, in Manchester, Preston, Bolton. They see it's two-tier, and that they're not being protected in the same way as we have to say the Muslim community is being protected. And that's a very dangerous situation, especially as we know it's coming from within the government itself because of the statements made after Suffolk, very early in the judicial process, in the legal police process, by not only Sir Keir outgoing, the Home Secretary, very, very important that she became involved, and then the incoming PM and Burnham, who hasn't really been very vocal on this before, but there he was talking about the dangers of anti-Muslim hatred. And yet those people, even though they may have been oddities, dressed in camouflage gear, carrying a drone and being a nuisance, they were all cleared of terror. One was charged and is pleaded guilty to having a Sten gun and a baton in his boot of his car. But they're not reporting that in the same way, you see.
No, it's funny, isn't it, that they shout terrorism the minute it comes to this particular crime, but when Nigel Farage was saying, I don't think that's a burglary gone wrong about Anne Widdecombe, he's the monster and he shouldn't jump the gun, and the police can't see any evidence of this being premeditated at all.
I agree. And, it doesn't take the genius to see this was here, the treatment of these two, one of murder and the other some guys on a nearby field. They didn't trespass, you see, doing their thing, however we might view them.
Well, this is the thing. I think we're going to see a rise in vigilantism as well, the more we become a failed state. Sue, thank you ever so much. You are the greatest journalist in Great Britain. I recommend everybody follows all of Sue's work now, because, it doesn't take a genius to see what's going on with the hypocrisy and the two-tierism, but it does take a lot of courage and conviction in the world of journalism to write the sort of articles that Sue Reid does.
Oh, without a doubt. And the fact that she mentioned, that other journalists are turning on her rather than actually talking about the story.
Yeah.
It's sickening. And you wonder why the country is in the state that it is. It is because the media, particularly the, legacy media, is more interested in protecting itself than actually doing its job, and that's holding people accountable for the things that they do and don't do.
Journalism died ages ago.
Yeah, ages ago. Do you know, it's the only profession mentioned in the US Constitution that's not government-related. That's how important journalism actually is. And it's treated just as a revolving door, mainly for the Labour Party.
It's basically just left-wing activism at this point. All right, we're going to be taking a short break, and we promised a fun show full of joy and happiness and cheer, and we haven't really delivered that, have we?
I think we were fake news.
That's disinformation. It's disinformation.
Disinformation.
But in this two-tier programme, we're going to have a second tier of excellence after the break, because we're being joined by Steve N. Allen.
Oh, brilliant.
Who's a fun stuff through and through. I don't know, let's see if we can crack a few jokes at the terrible state of our country. Well...
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello and welcome back, and let's just get straight into goodness and happiness and joy with Steve N. Allen. Hi, Steve.
Hello, how you doing? It's nice to be here.
Oh, it's great to have you here. Now, the problem is, right, I was looking through stories that we can talk about, just like, you know, have a bit of a lighter end of the show. But unfortunately, we're about to be missiled by Iran. We've got terrorists flooding into the country. The economy is about to fall over a cliff. So I'm like, oh, gosh, what can I find? And then I spotted this, and I thought, well, that'll do. Let's start there, shall we? Which is this whole concept of twinning towns and cities. First story I saw is Agatha Christie's English Riviera Devon hometown is going to be doing a twinning deal with Belgian Spa, the birthplace of Hercule Poirot. Spa, of course, famous for its amazing Formula One circuit. And I thought, well, that's nice. That makes sense. That's a little bit romantic. How lovely is that? Then I saw the opposite side to this, which is in a particular by-election happening in a particular city with a seat that's recently been vacated by a particular former mayor who is now the Prime Minister. A particular party has suggested as part of their campaign that it'd be lovely to twin Manchester with Ramallah in a newly identified Palestine. I mean, I know I'd rather go down Belgium Spa if it was my choice. I don't, I'm not. When it comes to picking and choosing who you're going to do your sort of, school exchanges with, I'm not really sure I like that idea.
Imagine sending the brass band to Ramallah.
Allow me to do the very standard joke that I think we're all thinking, but twinning that part of Manchester with that part of Palestine, you think to yourself, look, OK, one area has not necessarily thrived. It's got issues to do with sanitation. There are some people there who are just obsessed with some sort of religious ideology. And the other bit is a part of Palestine. And I think we all saw that joke coming. You've got to get it done, haven't you? You've got to tick the boxes. We can't be surprised about it. Yeah, exactly. I'll say this.
It's hardly going to be a cultural exchange, is it? I mean, it's just like, what new things are the people of particular parts of Manchester going to learn? No, they love it. They know already. But it puts me in mind actually of various. Have you ever been drawn into the whole twinned towns and cities old game, The Matrix? Because I have. Twice. The first time, it was my first foray into television, right? I was 5 years old, and coming from Gloucester, we were twinned with Gouda, because cheese, do you know what I mean? Cheese, and my first foray into television was I was on a giant weighing scale. They were trying to weigh children against a massive piece of cheese, and I made it on the local news.
Isn't that just typical of media? They're obsessed with women's weight, even at that age. Honestly.
Is it not culturally insensitive to keep bringing up cheese and Gloucester all the time? I feel like that's somewhat of cultural appropriation or something.
Can you still weigh children on television these days? I don't know.
Only if you compare them to cheese. Yeah, only if you compare them to a cheese. I love your part of the world. I love your people, but you are the people who chase down a hill after a wheel of cheese, aren't you? At some point when you find out they're in the shops, you are going to be so shocked. You didn't have to break your knees to do it. There's something about the Southwest where you do love a little bit of that, and let's not get into the Dorset knob tossing contest.
The what?
Do you not know of the Dorset the Dorset knob tossing?
I do not.
Do you know? Sorry, Steve. Do you know about the one in St Helens, which is called welly wanging?
Exactly. Do you know what? The kind of things I've been Googling to find those
You're on a list.
I should point out, and I'm sure you know this, that the Dorset knob is a type of biscuit. It's a hard biscuit.
Oh, is it? Oh.
Why? What were you thinking?
You can't put the word hard in front of the name of the biscuit without getting into trouble, can I just say? So it just sort of crossed my mind, and I quickly thought, don't say it. But I've alluded to it instead. The second time
Be careful what you dunk in your tea.
The second time I got caught up in the whole twinning game, my brother went on a lovely French exchange, GCSE, and he got to go to Annecy, which is a gorgeous sort of, lake in the southeast of France, in the Savoie, and it's beautiful, and it's, and he got to go on his French exchange there, because that's twinned with Cheltenham, which is up the road from Gloucester. When it came to me doing A-level French, I was sent to this dive called talkTV, where I had to walk through a knife arch every day. I'm like, well, I mean, obviously, Gloucester. That's hold on, you got to do your catchphrase.
That's Gloucester.
That's Gloucester. But, I mean, have you ever been caught up in some sort of... What is it for? Like, sometimes I'm driving through, you go past a road sign and it says this is twinned with some sort of place you've never heard of. And I'm like, what happens?
Yeah. Absolutely nothing, that's the thing. So originally, I'm from Mansfield in Nottinghamshire, and I remember every time going past the sign that says Mansfield, Nottinghamshire, twinned with Mansfield, Ohio, and you think there was no thought that went into that. That was the quickest meeting that ever happened. Oh, what else can we twin with? It's got the same name. What more do you want? The whole thing is pointless, but it's even more pointless when you're twinning it with a place in Palestine. I mean, look, almost the definition of virtue signalling. What will this do? Nothing other than we have a press release going, we are twinning with that town because we want to look good. It won't help them. There's no one in Gaza who's going to be like, oh, thank heavens. For a minute there, I thought we were in a bit of a sticky wicket situation, but we've now been twinned with a bit of Manchester. Phew. It's thoroughly pointless. But, I mean, it's meant to just be like the Poirot version, isn't it? It's just something that looks good on a road sign that's not to do with the speed. Do you know what I mean? So that one I don't mind, but the virtue signalling of the Greens is ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. I've just never really understood. Did the twinning thing do something? Because I think once upon a time it did do a thing, right? It was all about sort of, you got a pen pal from that place.
Yeah, we did that.
Or something like that. Who were you? Where was yours from?
So Wigan was twinned with Angers in France.
Anger.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. The place in the north was twinned with a place called Anger. I also like the idea that we had French Week in Wigan. I mean, most people can't understand. We can't understand what Wiganers are saying, given the standard of northern accents I've heard in the past week.
It's Wigan. Not Wigan. Wigan.
Oh, Wigan.
Wigan. Yeah.
God. I'd rather have the Manchester attempts at accents than the French one.
Turning the we into Wigan. Yeah.
But it is, I don't know, I find it fascinating, the whole twinning thing. I want to bring twinning back to life again.
Yeah, I can kind of see it as a kind of cultural exchange in schools and things like that. But realistically, it is just, as you say, it's just a virtue signalling thing. And, eventually I've always said that if, Ramallah will have a children in need for the people of Manchester eventually. So,
That's the thing. Do you not want to go and check? Because I worry that we've got all of these road signs that are advertising these other towns. Can we just check they're doing the return work on this?
That's a good point.
Do they know that we've twinned with them?
Yeah. Sometimes you drive through, you're going through some sort of village in the Cotswolds and it's twinned with, like, clickety-clocking, some Zulu place, and you're just like, what's going on there then?
Yeah. I'm just thinking.
What's that about?
A Manchester civil service meeting with members of Hamas.
Probably.
I mean, that's the only way that would work.
Are they meeting with themselves, is what you're asking?
Yeah, well, I didn't say it, I implied it.
Let's not talk too much about what might be going on in that part of the world. Do I have to do the list, by the way, Faith?
You didn't.
Do I have to do the list? All right, got to do the list because we talked about, that particular by-election. Also available to vote for: Sian Astley, Reform UK; Geraldine Coggins, the Green Party; Bev Craig, Labour and Cooperative Party; Phil Eckersley, the Conservative Party; Marcus Farmer, who's running as an independent; Richard Kilpatrick. Don't, Richard. Patrick didn't do anything wrong. The Liberal Democrats. I know, no quick thinking there. Did you like it? Marlon West for Restore Britain. There we go. The admin has now been done. Now, I want to get your take, Steve N. Allen, on number 10 of the North. I mean, how beautiful. I never thought it would ever happen. The dream of seeing a rented office space in central Manchester finally being the home of democracy. That's going to solve all our problems, isn't it?
It's sorted. I can't believe it took this long. I think you should go further. I would like there to be a number 10 on every street, as long as that street is at least 5 houses long. And that is a dream that one day I wish to see realised in this great nation of ours. Yeah, again, it's worse virtue signalling than the Gaza thing, isn't it? I mean, it's just, let's have a number 10 north. It's working from home, mate. You know what you're doing. Although, actually, I think part of this, I've been trying to do a bit of Andy Burnham analysis, working out what he's doing. The bus fare thing seems like he's still in mayor mode. There's some of the other things, the price off the electricity bill. I ain't going to moan, but I like I've been saying for ages, let's try and make energy cheaper. I think he's just doing the stuff that he's heard people moan about. So people in the north do moan about not feeling represented by the south. Electricity bills, we've moaned about that. Early release, everyone moans about that. He is clearly trying to get more oomph in his Burnham bounce. And I don't think we should be criticising him, because if he does get the bounce, there'll be a general election. I'm fairly sure of it. So if we all say, like, number 10 on the north, genius at it, chef's kiss, then at some point it'll go to the nation.
Yeah, no, I think you're right about that. I reckon a good old Jenny. I always call them Jennies. Yeah, I reckon a Jenny's coming up. I was in the pub yesterday and I was like, I am going to have the best hot girl summer I can have from now on. Pub every night, drinking with the neighbours, because that's it. If we end up with a Jenny, that's everything gone then.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
No more hanging out in the peace and quiet of the wilds of rural West Country for me.
As soon as they got rid of Starmer, I think it was generally obvious that they were going to have the general election, because Burnham isn't really covered in the Starmer mess at the moment. He's still pretty clean from it. So the longer he stays, the longer that the more chance of all that kind of piling on. And then, the Labour are back in the same position they were under Starmer. So it just genuinely makes sense. The question is when. When is he going to pull the trigger? I think after the conference season in October.
Yeah, but then if he announces it, what's the timetable then? The run-up? Because if he turns up after...
Well, according to Rishi Sunak, 15 minutes?
I just go like, general election next week?
Yeah, lunchtime?
You just missed it. Oh.
Yeah, it's like that train, when he gets it back from Manchester down to London, that's when he'll call it. You just got to rely on Arriva trains being on time, so a while yet.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting. I don't know, I think he might... He's clearly putting things out there. You can see what he's doing. He's seeding the ground, isn't he? He's putting all these little tidbits out there, which don't actually amount to anything. You know, this whole like, I'm going to take VAT off your electricity bill, it will save you 0.01 pence this year. Way! You know, I'm going
but
to
it's also that they're unfunded, but he's spending money that was unfunded from a different project and moving that unfunded fund from one area to another place where he can't spend it. But do you know what? I'd rather the unfunded money be spent on VAT cuts than actually be spent on the ID scheme. So even though there's no money involved, you know, he's coming up. He's going to do a giveaway. It's all thoroughly unfunded, but I'll take it. Do you know what I mean? Because what we had in the past
Can you imagine,
I love the honesty of that.
Can you imagine if the timetable goes like this, right? Farage is obviously fighting in Clacton right now. Then he comes back, say he wins it, and then the Standards Committee go, right, you're going to be suspended, and so you're going to have to refight Clacton, and he wins it. And it's like, right, general election, get back to Clacton, son. Can you imagine? So good they voted thrice.
Wow.
I know.
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
You've just mentioned the
by-election there.
It's a long list.
Dean just came in and threw his hands up in the air, did a little sort of anger dance in the gallery. But it's OK, because I don't have to read the list. We've actually got a preset video of Jeremy Kyle doing it. So it means I get a little sort of, minute nap while the following video is going to have to be played out. Steve, thank you ever so much. I love you to bits. You've definitely helped us end the show on a high. Have we got it teed up ready there? Hold on, drum roll. Take it away, JK.
So the full list of candidates for the Clacton by-election: Joseph 77, the Independent; Adam Akateep, the Forward Party; Count Binface, the Count Binface Party; Nick the Incredible Flying Brick, the Official Monster Raving Loony Party; Tony Kane's an independent. Woke Trump Kazi is an independent. William Stewart James Clouston is the Social Democratic Party candidate. Rhys Cowan, an independent. Glenn Charles Cummings, an independent. Martin Davis, the Freedom Alliance Real People, Real Alternative. Andy Earlam's an independent. Nigel Farage, the Reform UK Party. Atiye Fards, an independent. Lawrence Fox for the Reclaim Party. Tony Francis is an independent. Robin Green, an independent. Abby Hookway, an independent. Howling Lord Hope, the Official Monster Raving Loony Party. Stephen Richard Ingram is an independent, as is Amy Morris. Derek Norbert Morris is an independent. Michael Noel O'Keefe, an independent. Martin O'Brien, an independent. Nick Pellis, an independent. And Ketanar Kumar Pipiaya is the UK Voice Safer and Stronger UK Party. Daniel Pocock's an independent. James Ransley, the Consensus Party candidate. Jerry Smith is an independent. Kai Stevens for the British Democrats. John Stevens for rejoin the EU. Baron von Thunderclap for the Official Monster Raving Loony Party. Pamela Walford is an independent. Marcus White, Everyone is God Party. And Mark Wilkinson for the Independents.
fifth Prime Minister in 4 years. Blimey. And, well, look, we want him to succeed. But will this one be any different? Andy Burnham, the new head honcho. 1 minute he was Mayor of Greater Manchester. What, a month and a bit ago, he wasn't even an MP. The next, he's holding keys to number 10.
You know what? I'm trying so hard not to be cynical about it all, but I'm trying to keep, not hope. I'm sick of hearing about hope already. He's only been in government for 5 minutes, but I want them to succeed because I want Britain to succeed.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Can I just say, Angers, quite tasty looking. That's a good looking chateau. And there's some pretty nice, that marketplace. I could have a glass of wine there.
Yeah.
Oh, it does have a, look, it's got a rainbow shuttle though. It's the finger of woke has got to Angers.
Yeah. I mean, I'd always find it funny, like, you know, beautiful places like that and then they're twinned with, you know, not very nice places.
Can you do a bit of research? Because this could be a joke or this could actually be 100% true.
Right.
Well, it is true in its own little way, but someone's just But the whole twinning thing, I just don't understand it. I was looking at the Gloucester list there. Huda.
No, it's Skopje. Do you know where they had the Winter Olympics?
Oh, Skopje.
Yeah, Skopje, that one.
Where is that?
It's in Russia, isn't it?
What a Bradford string with Russia. All I can say is the anti-Western alliance is good and alive.
North Macedonia. Technically, it's North Macedonia. Is I can't pronounce any of these without, you know, getting in trouble.
This makes it even more fun.
Roubaix. In France.
Where's that?
In France.
No, right.
I've literally just got a list of the cities. And then a place in Belgium called Verviers. I'm definitely not pronouncing the German one.
I've been there.
Galway.
Galway?
In Ireland.
You can't struggle with Galway.
Again, I don't know where I am most of the time.
So this is all
and then
Mirapur.
Mirapur is in Pakistan.
So it's true somewhere in Pakistan. Of course it is.
Yeah, Mirapur.
Of course
Since 1998.
Oh, well, there you go.
There you go.
There you have it. It's such a weird thing, all this.
The history of the twinning thing is odd. I don't understand what it's actually for.
No.
Because, like, well, this is going back, like, the one in North Macedonia, it's in 1963 was when it twinned with Bradford. So we're doing this back in the 60s.
What? But why? What do they do?
I don't know. Like I said, I just think it's wherever the mayor wanted to go on holiday. Right. You know, he just kind of threw a dart at a map and went, that's where we're going.
The Gloucester one makes sense, you know, sharing cheese knowledge.
That does, and I like that.
I like that. You make cheese, I make cheese, let's get together and weigh some kids against a piece of cheese.
I'm pretty sure there's a place in Australia and a place in America called Boring. Oh, one's called Boring and one's called Dull, and they twinned, which I like
nice.
that.
I like that. I like,
that's
you know.
funny. That's
funny. It's good to have some games, isn't it?
But, like, you know, when it's just some random town, I'm like, why? What is the connection?
What are we doing about this?
Yeah.
That's what I want to know. Seeing as we now have number 10 of the North, can we turn number 10 of the South into an HMO?
Oh, I thought it was going to be a Wetherspoons.
Well, thanks.
Yeah.
Probably. Oh, that'd be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I know. Tim Martin always wanted to turn Buckingham Palace into a Wetherspoons. He said it was his dream.
I love Tim Martin.
I love Tim Martin.
I always knight him. I've decided he should be Sir Tim Martin.
Yeah, I do.
So I just call him Sir Tim Martin
My
now.
favourite thing about him is that Wetherspoons was the name of a teacher that he didn't like and said he would never amount to anything. So he named his company Wetherspoon.
Really?
Yeah. I love the pettiness of that, and I think it's admirable.
I love that. He's just such a legend.
Yeah.
That man has done more for preserving listed buildings, for giving cheap pints to the public, giving pensioners an affordable breakfast, and you know, boost employment, boosting our own alcohol industry. I mean, the man is a god.
Yeah.
Basically.
And yet we treat him terribly.
We treat him bad.
Yes.
I love him. But there you go. Yeah, number 10 of the North. What a nonsense it is.
Also, it's number 10 North, not number 10 of the North. It's actually number 10 North.
And someone online the other day was going, isn't it impressive how quickly they've been able to set that up? I'm like, well, no, because Andy Burnham was planning to boot out Sir Keir Starmer for the best part of a year, and all they've done is have printed some kind of, what are they called, those big sort of drop-down...
the
screeny
screen things. Yeah,
they've got a name. Those.
Yeah, I know what you mean. They're like a yes. I know exactly what you mean. They're actually very expensive. Them, if I remember rightly.
All they've had is had one of those, mate.
Yeah, isn't it also part of it's in a restaurant or in a pub that saw a hen do go into it as well? I mean, I find it hilarious.
Well, basically,
we're waiting for the BBC drama of it.
Mate, but when you look at who's largely staffing that number 10 North, it is a hen do. And one thing that I find quite hilarious is the fact that Angela Rayner, thinking she's being all clever, leaving her constituency to go get a posh beach house right on the coast down south, all of a sudden it's like, right, love, got to work back up there now.
I know. I like to think Andy did that deliberately. I'd love to believe that he was that smart to do that. Because I always get the feeling they don't actually like each other. Because most Northerners don't like each other.
No, most Northerners don't like.
Yes, that's true. That's true. People think that we're very friendly. We just wait till you've left the room.
I always find it sort of more nosiness.
Oh, yeah, we are in everybody's business. Particularly where I grew up. My God, you couldn't do anything without somebody, telling your mum.
You've got no idea what it's like down my village.
Yeah.
I may as well just, I don't know, stand outside my house with a megaphone every day and tell everybody what I've done.
Yeah.
Because they all know before I do.
I've always thought this should work for GCHQ. Just get a bunch of, nosy busybodies in from villages all together. We could take over the world again.
I know. Villages are very important things.
Yeah.
I do care for a good village. But there you go. I do quite like the sort of schadenfreude of poor old Angela Rayner not being able to enjoy her
don't worry,
beach
she's
house.
got that extra £17,000 to pay for train tickets.
Oh, isn't it funny, the hypocrisy where, when everyone else has sort of left a cabinet position and they get severance pay and then they come back, she's like, you've got to pay the money back.
Yeah.
And when it's there, it's like, no. And more surprisingly, it's the fact that, however long it was that she wasn't a minister, the outside earnings capacity is